Chapter 449. Enough. It's improper to make such a racket. Just as the crowd was quarreling in the hall, an angry snort passed through the hall and went straight into everyone's ears, like the morning bell and evening drum, which shocked everyone for a while. At the same time, a stooped figure appeared in front of the bedchamber. Before everyone could blink, the figure came to Su Dingxian and glanced at the whole hall indifferently. Why is he here? Seeing the old man's face, Su Xianyun's heart skipped a beat and he felt something was wrong. He braced himself to bow respectfully and shouted in unison with other elders, "Old ancestor! Old ancestor! Old ancestor!" The stooped elder nodded. His face full of age spots was very indifferent. Only when he looked at Su Dingxian did he show a little gentleness. This person was Su Dingxian's biggest backer and also the foundation of Su Dingxian's branch in the second branch. Su Dingchuan. I've heard the ins and outs of the matter. Let's talk about it first. I didn't find Su Jojo's pneuma under the scan of my divine awareness. If I'm not mistaken, Su Jojo has escaped from the second branch with those practicing resources. Su Dingchuan didn't listen to Su Xianyun and others' explanation at all. He made a conclusion as soon as he appeared and ordered everyone, "How can the practicing resources of our Su family be cheated? Immediately send people to hunt down Su Jojo, dead or alive." Old ancestor, I'm afraid there must be a misunderstanding. Su Xianyun was anxious and couldn't help but say. Su Dingchuan looked at him, and he suddenly held his breath, as if something was pressing on his head, making him unable to speak. I believe that the head of the family is absolutely loyal to our Su family. It's just that the demoness is cunning and cheated her. I won't pursue this matter, and I will put in a good word for her in front of the old ancestor. You don't have to worry. Old ancestor. Su Jojo can't cheat us. She saved my life. If it weren't for her, the three of us would have been dead. Su Dingchuan turned black into white as if it were true. Su Xianyun trembled with anger and defended Su Li loudly, regardless of the pressure on his head. That's right. If Su Jojo is really a liar, why did she ruin her future for such a little bit of resources? First elder, your words don't make sense at all. As Su Jing spoke, he nudged the silent Su Wenbing beside him. Third junior brother, say something. Su Wenbing turned his head, which startled Su Xianyun and Su Xianyun, because his face was terrible. Seeing this, Su Dingxian smiled meaningfully and said, "Junior Xianyun, you also said that except for the three of you, no one else knows what happened in the demon area. Who knows if Su Jojo lost all her cultivation because of saving you?" As he spoke, he stared at Su Wenbing. The meaning in his eyes was self-evident. Su Xianyun was about to refute, but he saw Su Wenbing, who had been silent all the time, suddenly stood up and said softly in a strange tone that he had never heard before, "First elder is right. Su Jojo's injury in the chaos zone has nothing to do with us. It was her own injury. Since coming back, Su Jojo has discussed with us how to seize the cultivation resources of the Su family. Although I agreed on the surface, I felt tormented in my heart. Now I can't bear to see the elders continue to be deceived. So, I hereby explain." As soon as this was said, the whole hall fell into a dead silence. Su Xianyun looked at Su Wenbing's face and opened his mouth again and again, but he didn't say a complete sentence. He didn't know how to ask. At this moment, the familiar junior fellow apprentice left him with only coldness and unfamiliarity. "Su Wenbing. Are you crazy? What are you talking about?" Seeing Su Wenbing lying with his eyes open, Su Zheng was really going crazy. He grabbed Su Wenbing's collar and said, "Do you know what will happen if you do this? Are you worthy of the master? Are you worthy of Su Jojo who saved your life?" Su Wenbing showed a smile that was uglier than crying, and said mechanically, "Second senior fellow apprentice, why do you do this? I can't bear to see you make more mistakes, get lost." Su Jing shook off Su Wenbing and clapped his hands hard. He held back his anger and disappointment and said in a trembling tone, "I will dirty my hands if I beat you. You are not the third junior fellow apprentice." Su Dingxian calmly watched Su Xianyun and the other two brothers turn against each other. He coughed twice and whispered to Su Dingchuan, "Old ancestor." Su Dingchuan glanced at him. Su Dingxian didn't see clearly whether the look contained a warning or something else. Then he heard Su Dingxian said loudly, "Since Su Xianyun and Su Zheng are accomplices, they can't be tolerated. Guards, take them to the Poison King Valley and let them be punished for 10 years. Su Xianyun and Su Zheng were stunned and doubted that they had heard it wrong. Even if all the crimes were true, it was not enough for them to be sent to the Poison King Valley. But now, before everything was investigated clearly, Su Dingchuan forced them to be convicted and sent them to the Poison King Valley. Su Dingxian wants to destroy the master's lineage. Danger! Su Xianyun reacted with horror in his eyes. He grabbed Su Zheng and retreated without saying a word. Although he understood that he couldn't clear his name if he retreated, it was better than dying here for no reason. Do you want to escape from punishment like Su Jojo? Stay here. Su Dingchuan's cold voice came out, and he sent out a palm print. The moment the palm print left the palm print, it became dozens of times bigger in the blink of an eye, and covered the heads of Su Xianyun and Su Zheng with the weight of Mount Tai. Su Wenbing's face changed dramatically. "It's different from what we agreed. Don't kill them." Before he finished his words, he was knocked out by Su Dingxian and fell to the ground. Su Xianyun sensed the intense chill and immediately smelled the smell of death. But he couldn't avoid it because of the huge gap in strength. At this critical moment, a silver light fell from the sky, penetrated the wall from the outer hall, and collided with the huge palm print. Boom! Amidst the deafening roar, two brilliant rays of light, one gold and one silver, flashed in the palace, and then the entire hall fell apart, directly split in half from the middle. The many servants outside the hall stared blankly at this scene, and then they all shuddered and fled in panic. The hall collapsed. Run! Soon after the servants fled, figures flew out of the ruins of the palace, and all of them were covered with dust. Some of them, who were too close to the center of the collision, were pale and flew out shakily with their hands on their chests. Obviously, they were seriously injured. Su Dingxian, who had the strength of Yuanying realm, was not injured. But when he saw who had died in the ruins, he couldn't help but look terrible. She was the only witness who saw Su Li vomit blood, but she was shocked to death by the aftermath of the fight. "Old ancestor," he called Su Dingchuan, but the latter didn't respond. He just stared at the figures slowly appearing in the smoke below with a solemn face. After a while, the smoke and dust dissipated. Su Dingchuan squinted and saw a middle-aged man in a servant's linen clothes standing upright in the ruins, protecting Su Xianyun and Su Zheng, who had just recovered from the shock but were unharmed. "Uncle Guang," Su Xianyun said in astonishment, "How could you?" In his eyes, Uncle Guang had always been a servant who took care of his master's mother. He was a man of few words, but he was extremely careful and took good care of his master's mother. But such a servant, who had no sense of existence in daily life, turned out to be an old ancestor of Yuanying realm who could rival Su Dingchuan. Su Xianyun couldn't figure it out, while Su Zheng was stunned and didn't come to his senses for a long time. The middle-aged man shook his head and didn't respond to Su Xianyun. He stared at Su Dingxian in the nothingness not far away with a pair of indifferent eyes, and said slowly, "You have crossed the line." Su Dingchuan couldn't help but sneer. "I have guessed that a practitioner of Huashan realm is probably standing behind Su Daiyin, but I didn't expect it to be you. Fellow practitioner, may I know your name?" "I'm just a nobody. Don't bother the old ancestor of Su family," the middle-aged man said faintly, and his tone was as indifferent as before. "Before this matter is investigated clearly, don't touch anyone from Su Daiyin's branch, including Su Wenbing." "Are you ordering me?" Su Dingchuan's wrinkled old face showed coldness. "This is not a place where an outsider like you can give orders." "Su Dingchuan." The middle-aged man calmly called his name, and there seemed to be a smile on his indifferent face. "You can choose not to listen to me. But with my strength, even if I am not your opponent, it is still easy for me to kill all the people below Huashan realm in Su Dingxian's branch before you react." do you want to have a try? As soon as the words came out, many elders' faces changed slightly, and they subconsciously stayed away from the middle-aged man. Even Su Dingxian felt a chill in his heart, and couldn't help but get closer to Su Dingchuan. This was a tough guy. Su Dingchuan's face darkened, and he looked at the middle-aged man coldly. The golden energy in his palm kept changing, and he seemed to be about to take action. Su Dingxian was anxious at once, and he hurriedly transmitted the sound in a low voice, "Old ancestor, think twice. If almost all the people in the second branch are dead, what's the use of us seizing an empty shell?" "Shut up." Su Dingchuan transmitted a curse, and stared at the middle-aged man like a poisonous snake staring at its prey. After a long time, the energy in Su Dingchuan's hand dissipated, and the atmosphere eased. Su Daiyin did a bad job, and the evidence is conclusive. Halfway through, he glanced at who died in the ruins, and his face trembled. He continued to say to the middle-aged man, "I will ask the old ancestor of the main family to come and make a decision about Su Jouzhou. Before the matter is over, Su Xianyun and Su Daiyin will be under your watch. If they leave the Su family, don't blame me for asking the main family to kill them all. I will take him away, too." The middle-aged man pointed at Su Wenbing, who was seriously injured and unconscious under the ruins, and his eyes were deep. "Everything will be decided after Su Daiyin comes back. If you can convince Su Daiyin wholeheartedly, I will not meddle in other people's business." Su Dingchuan frowned and didn't speak. Su Dingxian stood out and sneered, "That's good. I'd like to see how Su Daiyin will quibble for herself in such a situation." As he spoke, his expression couldn't help but turn ugly. This was because the middle-aged man didn't even look at him. He just waved his hand and moved the collapsed wall of the hall. After rescuing Su Wenbing, he left without another word. Chapter 450. On this day, in Yiyun Yard. Su Yuanhai's face was pale, but his expression was extremely respectful. He stood in front of the table in the room and said with a hint of surprise, "Master, why are you here? You should have told me so that I could ask people to prepare tea and snacks." Su Li didn't answer. She just turned over the information on the table and gradually frowned. Seeing this, Su Yuanhai immediately added, "Many of our people are in the spiritual stone mine, and the people of the sixth branch are also there. It's inevitable that there will be conflicts. What happened to your injury?" Su Li raised her head and her eyes were burning. Su Yuanhai covered his chest and answered quickly, "I dare not hide it from you." In addition to Su Jinnan, there was another senior from the sixth branch. His cultivation was not lower than the late stage of Yuanying realm. "I was seriously injured by him because of carelessness." Su Yuanhai peeped at Su Li and couldn't help but feel relieved when he saw that she was expressionless. "Let's go." At this time, Su Li suddenly said. She stood up and came to Su Yuanhai in a flash. She said lightly, "Go to the Black Stone Forest. Now." Su Yuanhai was shocked. "Master, your identity." Before he finished his words, he saw that Su Li's face and height had changed. She turned into a skinny woman with a completely strange appearance and pneuma in the blink of an eye. Su Yuanhai was shocked. There is such a secret method in the cultivation circle. Even your pneuma has changed. He didn't say anything more and immediately took Su Li to the Black Stone Forest. When the two left Yiyun Yard and got on the spiritual boat, they became 3 people. While controlling the spiritual boat, Su Yuanhai secretly looked at the young man who was suddenly made up by Su Li. The more he sensed, the weirder he felt. This man looked familiar, and he must have seen him somewhere. But his bone age was like that of a baby, definitely no more than 1 year. Mr. Subordinates are indeed unique in their own ways. Compared to them, I seem too ordinary. Su Yuanhai remembered that he had seen Yan Zai and others before. He sighed in his heart and drove the spiritual boat obediently. Dongfang Wuxue, who had just been released from Tsang Lei's cave by Su Li in the spiritual boat, showed a silly smile at this moment. He was an old monster whose mental age was not much younger than Su Li's. He breathed the air of Qingshui Circle desperately. After walking a few steps with uncoordinated hands and feet, he quickly adapted to the new body. In addition to joy, there was also deep gratitude in his eyes. If it weren't for Suli, he didn't know how long it would take for him to rebuild his physical body in this life. And if Suli hadn't destroyed the evil spirit in Sang Lei's cave, he probably wouldn't even have the chance to see the light of day again. Hurry up and familiarize yourself with the place. This time, I'll need you to lead the way to the black stone forest. Suli transmitted the sound. Dongfang Wushue's smile froze, and his eyes widened slightly. Going to that damn place again? Madam, no one has been able to unravel the secret of the black stone forest. It's too risky for you to go there rashly. In horror, Dongfang Wushue subconsciously dissuaded him. Su Li's eyes became sharp. What did you call me? Dongfang Wushue immediately realized that he said something wrong in a hurry. He quickly remedied, Master, please don't blame me. My soul and physical body are still merging, and the memory in the reincarnation mirror often pops up in my mind. So, Su Li stood on the edge of the spiritual boat, letting the fierce wind blow over her thin body. Dongfang Wushue almost didn't hear her plain words in the wind, but he still understood. What's Ling Li's status in Qingshui Circle? At this moment, countless pictures flashed through Dongfang Wushue's mind, including all kinds of terrible rumors in the faint laughter of passers-by. I'm not very clear. Dongfang Wushue suppressed those pictures and said with a bitter smile. Su Li looked at him meaningfully, but didn't expose him. She continued to ask, in this case, tell me the news of the Black Stone Forest. You wandered in the Black Stone Forest for a long time. You must have gained something, right? Of course. Dongfang Wushue breathed a sigh of relief. He organized his words and said tirelessly. Speaking of which, I learned the legend of the Black Stone Forest from Tian Sanren. He said that according to the ancient records, the Black Stone Forest was struck by a thunderbolt and turned black. After that, the vitality didn't disappear. Flowers and trees could still grow, but they all turned black. Even the stones couldn't escape. The thunderbolt was extraordinary, so he speculated that there was a cave of inheritance in the Black Stone Forest. As a result, he found the cave, but he couldn't walk out of it alive. Dongfang Wushue's expression was slightly complicated, but Su Li was expressionless. She pointed her fingertips and raised her eyebrows, that's all? Of course. Dongfang Wushue noticed her dissatisfaction and quickly replied, there are many rumors about the Black Stone Forest. I can't tell them all in 3 days. Is there anything you want to hear? It seems that you do know a lot. Su Li looked at the darkness on the horizon, then tell me about the rumors related to demons. Demons? Dongfang Wushue felt strange. Although he didn't know why Su Li was interested in a race that had disappeared for a long time, he still sorted out what he had learned and said with a frown, there are not many rumors about demons in the Black Stone Forest, and none of them seems to be true. Some people say that the entire Black Stone Forest is a huge sleeping black stone monster, and those black trees are the monster's hair. Some people say that there is a demon dragon hiding in the Black Stone Forest that can spit out lightning, and that the lightning was struck by it back then. Some people say that there is a cold pond in the depths of the Black Stone Forest, so deep that the bottom cannot be seen, and at the bottom of the pond hides an extremely terrifying old monster. Dongfang Wushue said a lot. Su Yuanhai was interested in it at first, but he became numb later. There were so many demons, and any one of them could have an accompanying demon crystal. How could he confirm it? But Su Li listened with great interest and let Dongfang Wushue continue to talk. Time passed slowly, and the spiritual boat soon arrived at the camp of the 7th branch outside the Black Stone Forest. During this time, Dongfang Wushue had perfectly integrated with his new physical body. Although there was no cultivation in his body, his realm was still there. It was only a matter of time before he recultivated to Yuanying realm. The head is here. Su Yuanhai's arrival naturally caused a sensation. Except for those who were seriously injured and bedridden, the rest of the practitioners all came out to greet him. Of course, they saw Su Li and Dongfang Wuxue. Su Yuanhai laughed and introduced them according to Su Li's order. This is the Grand Elder of Ni sect. Her cultivation is also in the late stage of Yuanying realm. With her help, we can definitely take back the spiritual stone mine. As soon as he said this, the practitioners who were still confused were shocked and saluted again and again. At the same time, their uneasy hearts were filled with unprecedented hope. A practitioner in the late stage of Yuanying realm was even higher than the head. That's great. I don't like the sixth branch for a long time. It's just that the old guy Su Jinnan asked for help. Now, we have one too. Ni sect is a small sect that the head strongly protects. I was wondering why the head favored Ni sect so much. Now I finally understand. The head is really farsighted. We are not as good as him. For a moment, the depressed atmosphere of the whole camp was swept away. They were full of fighting spirit and wished that Su Yuanhai could take people to the spiritual stone mine immediately. Su Yuanhai was still calm. He knew that since Su Li arrived here, everything was no longer up to him. He came to the main camp first and summoned the scout practitioner to learn about the recent situation. Head. The sixth branch has gone too far. The scout practitioner was a clever young practitioner with a very ordinary appearance. As soon as he came in, he said indignantly, Su Jinnan not only sent people to continue to invade our territory, but also guarded the entrance of each mine. As long as our miners came out, they immediately robbed them. In the past half a month, we have fought with the sixth branch countless times. Many miners have died. The friction is getting worse. Su Yuanhai's face turned livid. It has only been half a month, and the situation has deteriorated so much? Our people are either dead or injured. The sixth branch is not any better. Is Su Jinnan crazy? Head, in my opinion, the sixth branch is very anxious. It seems that something terrible is going to happen and they want to make a quick retreat. That's why they are mining the weird stone regardless of the loss. The young practitioner analyzed seriously. Su Yuanhai was stunned and asked, why didn't I see what you said in the intelligence? The young practitioner obviously hesitated for a moment, and then said as if he was ready to risk everything, Head, these are all my guesses. The scout chief said that I was talking nonsense and would mislead you, so he didn't let me write it in the report. Really? What the scout chief said is not unreasonable, Su Yuanhai was muttering to himself. Su Li, who had been silent, suddenly said, then tell me, what's the basis of your guesses? You can't be a good scout just by feeling. The young practitioner was stunned and looked at Su Yuanhai. Su Yuanhai nodded immediately. Then he felt it was inappropriate, so he added, if you see this person in the future, you should be more respectful than when you see me. Do you understand? The young practitioner was horrified and vaguely understood that he knew a big secret. He didn't dare to think more and immediately lowered his head, saying, Milord. I had sneaked into the mine where the sixth branch was mining and found that there were many small pieces of ore that had not been dug out. The mining method was extremely rough and wasteful. I think if you see it with your own eyes, you will definitely come to the same conclusion. The sixth branch wants to make a fortune and leave the mess to us. Speaking of this, the young practitioner raised his head and saw the girl's smile. At this moment, he felt that the light in the room was brightened. What's your name? Being asked his name, the young practitioner was stunned and said subconsciously, my name is Su Mian. Su Li nodded, you are a good seedling. Unfortunately, your cultivation is too low. As she said, she threw a universe bag to him, practice hard. Su Mian was completely stunned and looked at Su Yuanhai at a loss. But Su Yuanhai said with a smile, quickly thank me. Su Mian sensitively saw a trace of envy in Su Yuanhai's eyes. He was shocked and didn't dare to think more. He quickly knelt down and kowtowed. Chapter 451. Su Li never thought that she could reach the end by herself. She needed a lot of talents. Except for annexing other sets, she would not let anyone go as long as she met the right one. Su Mian was born with a keen intuition, so she thought highly of him. As for whether this person could reach the standard she wanted in the future, only time would tell. A moment later, Su Li and Su Mian came out of the main tent, while Su Yuanhai stayed in the camp to preside over the overall situation. Go to the mine occupied by the 6th branch. Su Li gave a faint order, and Su Mian immediately led the way in front of her without asking any questions. After they left the camp, they passed through the dark jungle. About an hour later, they came to the back of a low mountain. Although the black mist blocked her sight, Su Li could still see the miners coming and going in the bumpy mine in the call at a glance. The clanking sound of cutting oars lingered in her ears. It was a scene of bustling activity. Over this hill, we will reach the mine of the 6th branch. Su Mian transmitted the sound with a hint of nervousness. Almost all the people of the 6th branch are around the mine. It is heavily guarded. Lady, I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to sneak in. Su Li's eyes flashed, and she transmitted the sound back. You have been exploring here for a long time. Have you ever met a practitioner in Huashan realm? Huashan realm? Su Mian's eyes widened, and he shook his head rather strangely. I have only seen one in the late stage of Yuanying realm since I started my cultivation. I have never seen a mighty practitioner in Huashan realm. Su Mian suddenly realized that the person in front of him was a living practitioner in the late stage of Yuanying realm. He was lucky enough to be valued by a senior in the late stage of Yuanying realm. He pinched his face, and still felt it was unreal. Su Li stared at the mining carts coming and going in the mine, and the ores were shining with a strange light in the fire. Her psychic awareness quietly swept through the whole mine like a spring breeze, and penetrated into the depths of the spiritual mine. But this time, her psychic awareness, which had always been successful, was blocked by the soil, and she could not see the reality in the mine. Does the demon crystal block my psychic awareness? Su Li narrowed her eyes slightly. She picked up Su Mian, who was still in a daze, and directly flew down. Su Mian widened his eyes and watched himself being thrown into the bright mine by Su Li. He was so scared that his scalp was numb. His heart was about to fall out of his throat. Fortunately, his nerves were still quite thick, and he didn't scream out of fear. When his feet landed on the ground, Su Mian looked around stiffly, only to find that the cultivators and miners around him were still working and patrolling as usual, as if they had not seen him at all. Senior, Su Mian stared at this scene blankly and subconsciously looked at Su Li, but she didn't mean to explain at all. She just pointed at the mine and transmitted the sound, you have been here before. Lead the way. Su Mian nodded and tentatively walked a few steps into the mineshaft. After finding that no one could see him, his expression changed from nervousness to excitement, and he strode into the mineshaft. His eyes flashed. He, who had cultivated for more than 200 years, thought that he had seen many strange things, but he did not expect that there was such a mysterious secret technique in the world that allowed him to break into the enemy's camp as if there was no one there. In the future, when I am successful in my cultivation, I can do the same. Su Mian's mind was in a mess as he looked for the right entrance. Su Li followed him, and a touch of appreciation flashed through her eyes. This junior was bold enough and had a good temperament. As long as his talent was not bad, he could be trained well. At this moment, her thoughts were different. It was a waste for such a talent to be only a scout. The spiritual stone mine had not been mined for a long time, but the mine was already accessible in all directions. There were 6 or 7 entrances from the mine. Su Mian carefully identified and found the entrance that he had sneaked into last time. Senior, the strange ore is not found in all the mines. When I came in before, only this one produced the strange ore among the 3 entrances. Now there are 7 mines. It seems that the people of the 6th branch have found a new mining site. Su Mian analyzed as he led the way. Su Li nodded gently and said nothing. After a while, the breath of the mine suddenly changed, and a faint demonic energy lingered in her nose. Su Li stopped and looked around. It was dark and silent. This place has been mined out, and no one stays here. Su Mian added carefully. Then he saw Su Li walk to the stone wall and dig out a thumb-sized weird stone. It's a demon crystal. Black Lotus ring appeared on its own and sensed the demonic energy in Su Li's hand. His surprised voice came into Su Li's ears, this demonic energy is so pure, pure. Su Li glanced at Black Lotus ring, who didn't lose his temper this time. He explained carefully, yes. The status of the demon clan is determined by bloodline. The purer the bloodline, the nobler the status. I think the person who left the breath on the demon crystal was at least a member of the royal family in the ancient demon clan. There was really a demon in the black stone forest. Su Li's eyes were slightly cold. She remembered the gaze after exploring the Tsang Lei's cave. She transmitted the sound softly, do you think that the demon is still hiding in the depths of the black stone forest? Black Lotus looked at the depths of the dark mine with a dry mouth and tongue. Hearing Su Li's speculation, he suddenly felt numb. Who knows? If there is such a mighty demon in the world, we'd better run away. The people in the entire Jojo region are not enough for it. Su Li glanced at him and walked to the depths of the mine silently. Su Mian didn't know why Su Li suddenly left after being in a daze for a while. He could only follow her quickly. Black Lotus sullenly hid in Black Lotus ring and recalled Su Li's gaze just now. This king is actually being looked down upon. You little girl who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. When you see that mighty demon, you will regret it. However, if I really meet it, I will also be swallowed by the mighty demon. No. When Black Lotus was in a dilemma, Su Li had already walked to the end of the mine. There were 3 forks in front of her. The tunnel was no longer as dark as before. Instead, there was a lamp every dozens of steps. The lights were bright. It was not like this before. Su Mian exclaimed secretly. Su Li walked to the stone wall and gently stroked it. A faint coquettish luster flashed away. There are a lot of broken demon crystals in the wall. They are so broken that they can't be mined. Is this Su Jinnan's work, or? Su Li was a little more vigilant. After standing for a moment, she randomly chose a path and walked in. But after a few steps, her expression changed slightly. She pulled Su Mian out at a faster speed. Senior, Su Mian was confused. He didn't see anyone. Why did Su Li seem to be frightened? Su Li took a deep look at the deep cave entrance and turned to the second path. After a few steps, Su Li stopped again. It's the same chill. Is there a great crisis waiting for me at the end of each path? Su Li looked at the dark depths with a cold face. This was definitely not the work of the 6th branch of the Su family. Senior, what's wrong with you? Su Mian looked at Su Li's face and finally realized that something was wrong. There was a trace of panic in his voice. Su Li gave him a comforting look and whispered, now, let's get out of this cave together and go back the way we came. Yes, Senior. Although Su Mian didn't know why Su Li wanted to go back without finding anything halfway, he obeyed the order without hesitation and turned to go outside. But when he walked to the original fork, he was shocked. The way back disappeared. He ran to the smooth wall and touched the thick wall fiercely. Suddenly, he fell into a sluggish state. How could it be? Even immortals can't gamble on a mine in such a short time. We are trapped in it. Su Li looked at Su Mian's dazed look, and a trace of understanding flashed in her eyes. There is no trace of tactical matrix. Is it a demonic method? Su Li called Black Lotus in her heart, but Black Lotus ring didn't appear. It only passed her an emotion. You are targeted by a mighty demon. Was it really a mighty demon? Su Li's pupils shrank suddenly, but she didn't panic much. The mighty demon only blocked the way back, which meant that it didn't want to kill her. It just forced her to meet him. But no one could tell what would happen after they met. Su Li took a deep breath and led Su Mian to the 3rd fork. Since they were going to meet, it was the same no matter which of the three paths they took. The mighty demon just wanted to confuse Su Li and make her panic. However, it obviously underestimated Su Li. Su Mian followed Su Li. As they walked, he suddenly felt that the surrounding temperature was dropping, and the air was filled with an unpleasant smell, which made him a little absent-minded. He subconsciously approached Su Li and suddenly became sober. The air here is poisonous. If you are 10 meters away from me, you are likely to die. Be careful. Su Li's faint voice conveyed love. Su Mian's blood froze, and he immediately got closer to Su Li. He couldn't wait to stick to Su Li's back. Why is the experience completely different when I follow Senior into the mine? I'm just a scout in Zhuji realm. Su Mian felt wronged in his heart. He inadvertently looked at the wall, and the patterns on the walls suddenly squirmed, as if there were countless snakes swimming inside. The horrifying scene scared Su Mian so much that his voice changed. Senior, the wall moved. Huh? Su Li looked over, and the surrounding wall immediately stopped squirming. It was quiet, as if the scene just now had never happened. Senior, you have to believe me. The wall really moved. Su Mian said again and again with a sad face, for fear that Su Li didn't believe him. Su Li shook her head and walked to the wall. She touched the cold wall, but she didn't see the squirming picture. But the patterns on the wall were indeed different from before. Su Mian suppressed his fear and walked to Su Li. He looked at the wall for a long time. For some reason, he always felt that the patterns on the wall were very disgusting. Senior, the wall is so dirty and slippery. He touched the wall and turned his head, only to see Su Li looking at him with a strange look. Was that admiration? Chapter 452. Senior, what are you looking at? Su Mian was a little confused by his stare. After asking, he suddenly felt a slight weight on his shoulder, and a cold breath almost blew from his earlobes. What's that? Su Mian's scalp was numb, and he was about to turn his head subconsciously. At this moment, Su Li waved her hand, and his body immediately moved forward involuntarily. The thing on his shoulder also fell, and the sound of rolling came from behind him. He curiously wanted to turn back, but Su Li pressed the back of his head with one hand and walked to the depths of the tunnel. Don't look, or you won't be able to eat. Su Li said lightly and let go of the restraint. The more Su Mian listened to her, the more curious he was. Seeing that they were about to go far away, he finally couldn't restrain the restlessness in his heart and quietly glanced back. Just at this glance, he clearly saw the thing swimming on the ground behind him. What was that? How could it move when its face was hollowed out? Was its lower body a snake tail? A snake? Or a human? For a moment, Su Mian's face turned green. He suppressed his inner disgust and quickly walked behind Su Li. Looking at her expressionless face, he couldn't help but admire her. Not everyone in the cultivation circle could see such a horrible thing, but the senior's expression didn't change at all. Su Li sped up for the next part of the way, not only because the thing in the darkness behind them was closely following them, but also because the breath emitted by the surrounding walls was getting worse. These things were not fatal to her. She hadn't been poisoned for a long time. Even if the snake venom in the air was very powerful, it was basically a decoration for her. But for Su Mian, it was not a good experience. She turned her head and glanced at Su Mian, who was in a trance. Obviously, he had fallen into the illusion. For a moment, she wanted to feed Su Mian some blood to try to detoxify him, but she immediately gave up the idea when she thought of the immortal tea plant. You don't want to kill me, but just want me to meet you as soon as possible. Su Li slightly narrowed her eyes, and a trace of thinking flashed through her eyes. An hour later, the mine controlled by the sixth branch was still in full swing. But deep in the mine, a psychological game was taking place. Walking through the corridor full of strange patterns, Su Li finally came to a cave. This place was filled with cold air. The cave was filled with icy blue icicles. The extreme coldness seemed to be able to penetrate through the bones. In the middle of the cave, there was a tree that seemed to be carved out of ice. Under the blue light, it looked like jade. Su Mian couldn't stay a moment longer and was soon frozen into a coma. It was convenient for Su Li to let the nightmare swallow him directly and avoid being disturbed. Su Li walked to the ice tree and looked at the cold pool in front of her. In such a low temperature, the pool was still sparkling and did not freeze. She immediately remembered a legend mentioned by Dongfang Wuxue. In the depths of the black stone forest, there was a cold pond that was so deep that its bottom could not be seen. At the bottom of the pond hid an extremely terrifying old monster. At the bottom of the pond? Su Li squatted down and looked at her reflection in the lake. Suddenly, the face in the lake changed into Su Li in the reincarnation mirror. Shwa! Su Li stood up abruptly and looked around with gloomy eyes. He, don't be nervous. I'm just joking with you. The seductive voice came from the bottom of the lake and echoed in the cave as if it came from all directions. Su Li stared at the lake. The legend was true. Was there really a mighty monster at the bottom of the lake? Splash! The calm lake gradually rippled, and then the lake water churned and a shadow appeared. Su Li took a few steps back and looked at the snake man who jumped out of the lake. Or, a beauty with a snake and scorpion. Su Li looked at the mighty monster that Black Lotus said. The monster in front of her was half human and half demon. Its upper body was human, and it had a perfect and delicate face. It seemed to be the most pleasing work of art in the world. Just one glance could make people immersed in it and unable to extricate themselves. As for the lower half of its body, it was a thick snake tail covered in scales. Compared to its willow-like waist, the snake tail was as thick as a water bucket. It was covered in dark purple scales that were incomparably sharp and gave off a threatening chill. Although the monster did not emit much heavy pneuma, Su Li felt a pressure. This pressure did not come from the bloodline of the demon clan, but time. Black Lotus is right. This monster is an old monster who has lived for many years. Black Lotus, do you know him? Su Li tried to call Black Lotus, but only felt a sense of fear. Did Black Lotus not only know him, but was also afraid of him? Su Li's heart sank slightly, and her slightly relaxed mind became tense again. Little girl. I have been observing you for a long time. The big demon rested her snow-white arms beside the pool. A gentle smile appeared on her delicate face. Her crisp and sweet voice made people involuntarily intoxicated. My name is Zisha. Don't be afraid. Come and sit here. Su Li's eyes were clear. Instead of moving forward, she stepped back a few steps and said in a cold tone, Are you observing me? Seeing Su Li's reaction, Zisha was a little bored. She waved her hand and said, Well, if you want to stand and chat with me, then just stand. As soon as she finished speaking, the icicles on the walls of the cave suddenly melted. Countless half-snake, half-human monsters with their faces hollowed out fell from above. In an instant, the entire cave was filled with the disgusting smell of blood. Only the area where Su Li stood was clean. As Zisha said, she only left a space for Su Li to stand still. Su Li, I like your name very much. Since you left this forest last time, I have liked you. Zisha swayed her snake tail in the water, and her cheeks were red. She said happily, I threw out a lot of demon crystals to attract you. Sure enough, you came in less than a month. Su Li looked at the joy on her face. It seemed that she was not pretending, but she did not feel lucky at all. The demon clan liked to eat people the most. Would she like a food? It was simply a fantasy. Zisha. Su Li said slowly, and her tone was as cold as before, if you have anything to say, you might as well come straight to the point. Although you are a mighty demon, the cultivation circle is not suitable for you to stay. If you are exposed, there will be countless old ancestors of holy sects who want to keep you as a pet. So, if you want something, you might as well say it directly. If you have been watching me all the time, you will know that neither of us can afford to waste time. Why waste time? The cold words hit the nail on the head, and the relationship between the two was instantly revealed. The beautiful blush on Zisha's face faded away, and 2 rows of white teeth were revealed. It seems that you are not as simple as I thought. After you entered Yushu's sect, your pneuma disappeared for a period of time, and then you became more powerful. If I didn't really want to ask you for help, I would break your body to see what secrets are inside. Su Li's body tightened. She did not speak, but her mind was slightly relaxed. This mighty demon really wanted to ask her for help. After a moment of silence, Su Li said first, "Why me? You have lived long enough. For countless years, I am definitely not the only one who came to the Black Stone Forest. Even many people left the Black Stone Forest last time. Little girl, I am very good at judging people." Zisha's vertical pupils glowed, and she licked her lips with her snake tongue. The taste of the human clan is very sweet, but there are many kinds. The flesh of mortals is coarse and the most unpalatable. What really tastes good is practitioners. The more talented practitioners are, the more tender their flesh is. Besides, there is an irresistible fragrance for our demon clan. You smell very fragrant. Su Li's eyes changed, and she said sarcastically, "You said this to a food. Aren't you afraid that I won't help you? As I said, I have been observing you for a long time." Zisha did not seem to be in a hurry at all, and she told all the reasons. "Your character is very similar to mine. We are both people who will do whatever it takes to achieve our goals and abandon everything. The so-called restraint of reason doesn't exist for us at all. So, as long as I take out something that appeals to you, you will definitely help me, won't you? And I also know that your existence is not tolerated by the natural law. With the improvement of your cultivation, you will have nowhere to hide under the natural law, right?" Zisha glanced at the broken reincarnation mirror on Su Li's waist and giggled. "A broken mirror alone can't help you resist much. But I can help you." Su Li was silent until Zisha finished. She took a light breath after Zisha finished, and there was no panic on her face. She also showed a smile on her face. "You deserve to be a mighty demon who has lived for tens of thousands of years. You can even see these in such a short time. But, Senior Zisha, are you going to let me promise first and then tell you the requirements? I like your calmness very much." Zisha fiddled with her slender nails, and her eyes were full of purple. "What I want you to do is very simple. Help me attract the attention of the natural law. As long as you can hold on for a quarter of an hour, I can give you those rewards at any time." Attract the attention of the natural law? Su Li's eyes changed. "You want me to take the initiative to expose myself and attract the punishment of the natural law? What's the difference between that and death?" Zisha picked her nails and giggled, but the snakes around her roared, "Little girl, do you really think that you can walk out of here alive if you don't promise?" Su Li slightly pursed her lips and didn't speak. Zisha sighed and pointed to those roaring snakes. "These are all your predecessors. Unfortunately, they either don't promise or fail. I can only let them accompany me in this way forever. In fact, I know people like you very well. When you know your fate, you will think all the time about how to escape from the punishment of the natural law if you are noticed by the natural law one day. Especially you, Su Li, you are calm enough and your thinking is also meticulous. Others must think more about these questions. Maybe, you can really escape from the punishment of the natural law. Anyway, you will die if you don't promise. Why don't you promise and have a try?" Zisha's tone was gentle, and she persuaded Su Li softly, as if she was really thinking about Su Li. Su Li looked silent. It was the first time that she faced a mighty ancient demon. She finally had the deepest understanding of the horror of this kind of existence. "I promise you. But I have a requirement." Chapter 453. Zisha was stunned. Obviously, she didn't expect that Su Li would agree so quickly. All the humans who had been trapped here by her in the past had either agreed or refused after a long struggle. Even if there were a few exceptions, they would remain calm on the surface, but their hearts would be full of uneasiness. With her talent, she could easily sense the emotional changes of these food. But from Suli, she could only feel calmness. She was really calm. It was as if her request was just a trivial thing like eating and drinking, and there was no life-threatening danger. What do you want to ask? Zisha's crystal eyes flickered, and she said with a smile, it's the first time for me to meet such an interesting person like you. In view of this, no matter what you ask, I will tell you the answer. Suli slightly raised the corner of her mouth. I have already thought about the question. What's your purpose of asking me to attract the attention of natural law? Zisha's smile on her face stagnated, and a rare trace of annoyance flashed through her eyes. But she recovered her smile in an instant, and said softly, little girl, I thought you would be smarter and wouldn't ask such a sensitive topic. You should know that if you really know the answer, even if you can survive the natural law, I will not let you go. I just want to know this. Suli looked at Zisha, ignoring the snakes around her who were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. I don't want to be an ignorant scapegoat. Scapegoat? Splash! Zisha swayed her tail and swam from the cold pool to the shore at an extremely fast speed, leaving a trail of water. Suli had no way to retreat, and could only let Zisha's perfect and frightening face appear 1 inch in front of her, almost sticking together. Suli could even see the boundless evil spirits rolling in Zisha's purple eyes, like the hell. I really can't see any fear in your eyes. Zisha's eyes left Suli, and she straightened up. She was 2 heads taller than Suli, and she looked down at Suli. You mentioned the scapegoat. It seems that you have guessed a lot of information. She waved her hand, and the surrounding snakes howled and brought a stone chair from nowhere to put in front of Suli. After Zisha sat down, her eyes were level with Suli. You human clan often say that natural law is constant. In my opinion, the heavenly Tao is just a bastard who likes to meddle in other people's business. As Zisha said, she deliberately slowed down her tone to observe Suli's reaction. But Suli actually nodded and said, Senior of the demon clan is right. I agree with you very much. This time, Zisha was really stunned. However, she quickly reacted and snorted, You're different from those rotten and pedantic scholars. It's rare for a human to agree with Arya race's views. Suli nodded and continued, So, Senior, a mighty demon like you is not tolerated by the natural law like me? That's why Senior put demon crystals in the wall of the mine outside to block the detection of the heavenly Tao. But for so many years, Senior has a wish, and if this wish is to be fulfilled, it will definitely attract the attention of the heavenly Tao. So you need someone to attract the attention of the heavenly Tao, so that Senior will have time to do that. After Suli finished speaking in a calm tone, the whole cave fell into silence. Even the snake men who had been howling stopped and stared at Suli blankly. Although they had no faces, they exuded a sense of fear for no reason. You are very good. Zisha inhaled gently. Looking at the weak human in front of her, she didn't know what to say for a while. In the past 10,000 years, it's not that no one can guess my mind, but that they dare not. You are really bold. Suli smiled gently, neither servile nor overbearing. Since Senior wants my help, you naturally won't hurt me. So, what's the harm for me to say a few more words? Zisha looked at Suli coldly, and the chill gradually spread to her feet. Just when the snake men thought that their master would attack in anger, she actually laughed extremely cheerfully. Laughter that sounded like silver bells reverberated throughout the cave abode. You're very special. I'm really going to fall in love with you. If you weren't an anomaly, maybe I could let you live a few more years. As Zisha said, she threw out a ball-shaped crystal that emitted an amazing purple light. Integrate this thing into your tactical matrix, and it can make the tactical matrix exert several times the original effect. In addition to this, I also give you the practice resources of the human clan that I have accumulated over the years. As a reward, I will give it to you in advance, in case you have no life to use it. Suli took the purple crystal, took out the tactical matrix plate for camouflage without saying anything, and integrated it into it. About an hour later, the crystal was completely integrated into the tactical matrix plate, and there were a lot more cracks on it. At most, it would be completely destroyed after a dozen times of use. I have to find other ways to isolate the natural law. Otherwise, when this tactical matrix is broken, it will be extremely difficult for me to take action. The thought flashed in Su Li's mind, and then she put away the tactical matrix plate, facing Zi Sha's beautiful eyes full of appreciation. What do I need to do? The moon set and the sun rose. It was another early morning. At dawn, Su Li walked out of the mine as if there was no one else, and Zi Sha's charming voice was still echoing in her ears. Don't think about escaping. As long as you dare to leave Jojo region, I will definitely kill you before you leave. Don't underestimate the strength of the mighty demon. You still have a year to prepare. Think about how to escape from the natural law. A year was too long. Su Li sighed and turned to leave. Back to the camp of the 7th branch, Su Mian followed Su Li with a blank look, and patted his head from time to time, like a fool. What happened last night? What's in that tunnel? Su Mian tried his best to think, but he had no memory. Seeing the camp of the 7th branch of Su family not far away, he suddenly felt a sense of familiarity and pity. It was rare for him to have an adventure with the senior, but he failed to stick to the end. Fortunately, the senior was kind enough to bring him out. After asking Su Mian to rest, Su Li came to the main tent, and Su Yuanhai, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately came to greet her. Master, you are back. He said with joy, and then his face suddenly changed. Master, there is an unpleasant smell on you. Did you take the demon crystal? Su Li was slightly stunned. She didn't feel it herself, but it must be the trouble caused by the purple crystal. She ran the all-spirits tactics in her mind, and the demon energy immediately disappeared from Su Yuanhai's perception. Master, the pneuma is gone. Su Yuanhai said respectfully, and then asked, what should we do next? Although the demon crystal is valuable, you need to be alive to get it. Su Li smiled with coldness in her eyes. I was worried that there were too many branches in the Su family, and it was too troublesome to collect them all. So, I wanted to destroy some of them. You? Su Li said slowly. Su Yuanhai's eyelids twitched, and he was shocked. If it was true, then the Su family would be in big trouble. However, Su Yuanhai was not sad at all, but full of joy. Since his soul was controlled, only the interests of the master could affect his mood. Others, including his family and children. What's more, Su Yuanhai had no cultivation partner. He was destined to be Su Li's servant in this life. Su Li left quickly, but Su Yuanhai didn't leave. He was busy with the arrangement. On the surface, the 6th branch and the 7th branch were fighting in full swing as usual. The next morning, Su Jinnan was cleaning up the demon crystals in the warehouse of the camp. He was still fantasizing about the resources he could exchange with these demon crystals and what realm he could reach. Suddenly, a scout disciple of the 6th branch ran in a panic and said loudly, Head, something bad happened. The camp of the 7th branch is empty, as if they all disappeared overnight. And the mind demon crystals are all piled up in the warehouse, untouched. What? Su Jinnan looked back with his eyes slightly red. Take some people there immediately. No. I'll go there myself. Although the 6th branch occupied 80% of the demon crystal mine, the part mined by the 7th branch should not be underestimated. No matter how the people of the 7th branch disappeared, those demon crystals must not fall into the hands of others. Su Jinnan had no time to think about it and rushed to the camp of the 7th branch with a large group of people. Soon after he left, the practitioner in the late stage of Yuanying realm whom he invited received the news. This person was Mo Yang, a casual practitioner. He had a good reputation in the cultivation circle and liked freedom. He was unwilling to be bound by the sect, so he practiced by helping others in daily life. Mo Yang was calm and was not blinded by interests. After listening to the description of the disciple of the 6th branch, he immediately noticed that something was wrong. However, Su Jinnan had left the camp. If he left, he could not afford to be responsible for anything that happened to his own camp. After thinking about it over and over again, Mo Young finally sighed and sat down on the spot. He said to himself worriedly, I hope it's okay. Su Jinnan hasn't paid me yet. But sometimes, what he was afraid of happened. Shortly after he sat down, another disciple who was responsible for supervising the mining rushed in a panic. Senior, something terrible happened. Those spiritual stone mines have all turned into stones. Stones? Mo Yang's face changed wildly. He rushed out of the tent without saying anything and came to the mine. At a glance, he saw all the disciples of the sixth branch gathered in front of the mine's warehouse in a daze. The air was filled with dead silence. His face turned cold. Get out of the way. All the disciples immediately woke up and made way for him. Mo Young rushed into the warehouse and saw the stones piled up in the warehouse. He was horrified and felt a chill rising from his feet. How could it be? My divine awareness has been covering the warehouse all the time. Who has such great ability? Who can replace all the demon crystals into stones under everyone's eyes? At this moment, a disciple who was responsible for guarding the warehouse stood up and said with a frightened face, Senior, these are the demon crystals. I saw with my own eyes that the demon aura on the demon crystals was quickly lost and turned into a pile of stones in the blink of an eye. It seems that, all the demon aura was, sucked away by something in an instant. Hearing this, Zi Sha, who was hiding in the depths of the cold pond, licked her lips. Her goal had been achieved. She naturally had to take back the bait she released. Did the lowly human clan want to use her demon crystals to practice? No way. Chapter 454. They were sucked away. Mo Yang looked at the disciple of the sixth branch strangely. If many disciples didn't nod around him, he would definitely think that this disciple was lying through his teeth. Even if you are telling the truth, someone will prove it for you. Mo Yang took a deep breath and felt a headache. Who would believe it? He could see that Su Jinnan valued these demon crystals more than his own life. If he knew that all the demon crystals mined by the sixth branch turned into stones, wouldn't he go crazy? Su Jinnan was indeed crazy. Su Jinnan lowered his head and suppressed the anger in his heart. He knelt on the ground and squeezed out 2 words from his teeth, Old Ancestor. You still know that I am your old ancestor? The hawk-nosed elder who came suddenly snorted. A moment later, Su Daiyin floated over. Seeing the empty camp of the 7th branch, her expression changed slightly. However, she couldn't ask more questions in this situation. If Daiyin and Yuan Hai didn't inform me secretly, how long are you going to keep it a secret? The hawk-nosed elder said coldly and looked at Su Jinnan with displeasure. Su Yuan Hai also reported it secretly to the old ancestor. Su Daiyin was a little relieved when she heard the words. It seemed that it was not as she thought. Su Yuan Hai should have left with others. Just when Su Daiyin spoke, the hawk-nosed elder waved his sleeves and swept open the door of the camp warehouse under Su Jinnan's unwilling gaze. A smell of spiritual stones came to their faces. The hawk-nosed elder, who was supposed to be happy, suddenly looked uglier than a pig's liver. Su Jinnan. The hawk-nosed elder shouted. Before Su Jinnan could react, he saw a palm as big as a cattail leaf fan rapidly enlarging in front of him. Slap! Su Jinnan's right face was slapped hard, and he flew far away with his body. He lay on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked up dizzily with a confused look. Why did the old ancestor hit me? Su Jinnan, how dare you? The hawk-nosed elder was sure that it was Su Jinnan. He appeared in front of Su Jinnan and was about to attack him again. Su Daiyin saw that the situation was not good and hurried to stop him. Old ancestor, calm down. Is there any misunderstanding? Misunderstanding? The hawk-nosed elder looked at Su Jinnan and sneered as if he was looking at a dead man. Su Jinnan, how dare you play such tricks in front of me? Su Dain finally noticed that something was wrong. She quickly walked to the warehouse and gasped when she saw a warehouse full of stones and a few low-grade spiritual stones. Did Su Jinan want to die? Could it be Su Yuanhai? Su Dain was worried. At this time, the hawk-nosed elder spoke again. I thought Yuanhai's worry was unnecessary. I didn't expect that you would be so crazy for these demon crystals. You even deceived me. Lie. Old ancestor, I didn't lie to you. Su Jinan sensed the killing intent in the old ancestor's words and finally panicked. He knelt down with a quiver and kowtowed again and again. Old ancestor, please forgive me. It's my fault to conceal the demon crystals. But Junior really didn't lie to you. You dare to quibble. The hawk-nosed elder picked up Su Jinan and threw him in front of the warehouse. How do you explain these stones? Su Jinan was dumbfounded when he saw the warehouse full of stones. Then he shook his head crazily and shouted, Old ancestor, I didn't do it. It must be Su Yuanhai. He did it. I just got here and had no time to exchange the demon crystals in the warehouse. I knew you would quibble like this. The hawk-nosed elder didn't ease his expression at all. He slapped Su Jinan heavily again. Su Jinan flew far away and kept coughing up blood. This time, he was obviously more seriously injured than last time. He couldn't get up after a long time. Su Yuanhai is a good boy. He knows that he is unlucky and knows what he should take and what he shouldn't. In order to prove that he had nothing to do with the demonic crystals, he purposely gathered all the Qian Kun rings of his disciples together. He even invited me to the 7th room for a while. My divine sense could not have missed any demonic qi. He did not take a single demonic crystal. The hawk-nosed elder looked gloomy when he said this. So, you still want to say that you didn't do it? Su Jinan opened his mouth and only felt bitterness in his mouth. The bitterness reached his heart. He turned his head and stared at Su Dain with resentment. It seemed that he wanted to vent all his grievances and resentment on Su Dain. Su Dain frowned and thought that Su Jinan was really crazy. He dared to show hostility to her at this time. Wasn't he afraid of the old ancestor's anger? Su Jinan still wanted to live. The 2 slaps had completely woken him up. He got up and knelt on the ground. He bowed deeply to the hawk-nosed elder and said in a muffled voice, Old ancestor, I didn't do it. Old ancestor, please check it carefully and make a conclusion. If you really find out that I did it, I am willing to die. Hearing this, the hawk-nosed elder's expression finally eased a little. He frowned and took Su Jinan to the camp of the 6th branch. Su Yuanhai's demon crystals are lost. You can't lose yours too, can you? Put away the demon crystals first, and I will check it carefully. Thank you, old ancestor. Su Jinan breathed a sigh of relief. It didn't feel good to have a trip to the gates of hell. Su Dain, who was behind him, suddenly had a bad feeling when she heard this. Could it be, as soon as this thought flashed through Su Dain's mind, she heard the old ancestor's angry roar from the camp of the 6th branch. Su Jinan. You're courting death. Boom. In front of the warehouse of the 6th branch, a palm print appeared on Su Jinan's chest. Then he flew backward like a cannonball. The huge force made his eyes protrude. He fell on his back, and blood gushed out like it was free. Boom. The camp seemed to be flattened by Su Jinan's body. For a moment, countless disciples of the 6th branch were killed and wounded. The old ancestor was really angry. Seeing the bright red in the ruins, Su Dain couldn't help but turn pale and feel cold. She involuntarily retreated to the outside of the camp of the 6th branch and watched the development of the situation. Cough, cough, cough. In the ruins, Su Jinan crawled out, struggling at death's door. He stared at the warehouse full of stones. He couldn't understand why those valuable demon crystals suddenly turned into stones overnight. Mo Liang stood at the side, his face pale. Why did the old ancestor of the Su family come here at this time? How could he explain the absurd reason? The hawk-nosed elder glanced at Mo Yang's face for a moment. Then he moved his eyes away and walked to Su Jinnan. He said coldly, "Where are the demon crystals? Tell me, and I will spare your life for the sake of your years of service to the Su family. If you don't tell me, you will die." Su Jinnan's face was terribly pale. He still didn't know what had happened. But in order to save his life, he had to brace himself and said, "Old ancestor, I wouldn't dare to deceive you even if I ate a bear's heart and a leopard's gall. I can guarantee with my life that none of those demon crystals fell into my hands. Someone must have hindered me and wanted me to cut off my arms and legs. Old ancestor, please think twice. You didn't deceive me. You sure have a glib tongue, pushing everything away cleanly." The hawk-nosed elder snorted coldly, but his face softened. "I won't easily kill you. Since it is you who have committed the disappearance of the demon crystals, you should atone for your crime by meritorious deeds. I give you 3 days to find out the whereabouts of the demon crystals. If you can't find them, the whole 6th branch will pay with their lives. Only in this way can I calm the anger of those who come from other big regions. Do you understand? Other big regions?" Su Jinnan's eyes widened and he spat out more blood. "How could it be? I clearly, humph." The hawk-nosed elder waved his sleeves, turned around, and scolded coldly, "You are so stupid. There is no impenetrable wall in the world. Do you really think that the 6th branch is really an iron plate? The matter of the demon crystals has long been known by the practitioners of other big regions and even holy sections. You concealed it and brought great trouble to the Su family. If the Su family is destroyed because of you, Su Jinnan, will be the biggest sinner of the Su family. Think about it with your blockhead." Hearing this, Su Jinnan was completely stunned. It's just a demon crystal mine. He didn't expect that a moment of greed would put him in a desperate situation. "Head of the 6th branch, you, take care of yourself." Su Dian sighed and turned to look at the hawk-nosed elder. There was a trace of pleading in her beautiful eyes. The hawk-nosed elder wanted to go directly back to the main branch. But when he saw Su Dian's eyes, he stopped and sighed, "Well, I'll go to the 2nd branch. I haven't visited the 2nd branch for a long time since your grandma died. By the way, I can see how Su Jojo's injury is. I didn't expect you to praise her so much." "Thank you, old ancestor." Su Dian was overjoyed and responded with joy, "Thank you, old ancestor." Ho ho, the hawk-nosed elder smiled and temporarily put the matter of the demon crystals aside. He waved his sleeves and disappeared with Su Dian instantly. Only the wailing from the camp echoed in the black stone forest. Mo Liang stood still like a sculpture. When the hawk-nosed elder disappeared from his sensing range, he breathed a sigh of relief, as if he had come back to life. He looked at the disciples of the 6th branch lying on the ground. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly found that his back was cold and wet. "It's right that I don't join any sect or family." After this incident, he was more determined to stick to his idea. While thinking, Mo Liang walked to Su Jinnan, helped him up, and fed him a healing elixir. Su Jinnan refined the elixir for a while, and his face became ruddy. But he didn't continue to heal himself. Instead, he opened his eyes and said calmly, "Fellow practitioner Mo, you can go now. Don't mention that you have been here after you leave." Mo Liang was slightly stunned. Head of the 6th branch, a trace of mockery flashed across Su Jinnan's pale face. "Old ancestor didn't vent his anger on you. Don't you understand?" Mo Liang was horrified. "You mean?" Su Jinnan smiled bitterly. What he said immediately made Mo Liang fall into an ice cave. Violated the taboo. "It's fine if I can hand over the demon crystals to make amends. If I can't, the Su family must give an explanation to the practitioners of the big regions. I'm the best scapegoat. But if the old ancestor hurt you, there will be more trouble." "So, you escaped." Chapter 455. Speaking of this, Su Jinan covered his mouth and coughed up a lot of blood, but he continued regardless, but those angry practitioners in the big region won't care whether you have nothing to do with it or not. If you continue to stay here, your life will be in danger. So, hurry up and leave. Head of the 6th branch, Mo Yang was moved. Then he thought of something and said quickly, but those demon crystals have become empty shells. Many people of the 6th branch have seen that the demonic aura in the demon crystals has been sucked away by something. If there is no accident, all the demon crystals in the mine have become ordinary stones. You can use this as an explanation. It's useless. You are too naive, fellow practitioner Mo. Su Jinan shook his head, unless I can find the thing that has sucked away the demonic aura. You don't have to worry about this matter. I will take full responsibility for my mistake. You are just a practitioner invited by me. Why do you have to get involved? Mo Yang stared at Su Jinan blankly. After a long time, he stood up and solemnly cupped his hands to salute, saying, "It's ridiculous that I listened to the slander outside and said that the Su family is full of bullshit. Now that I met the head of the 6th branch, I know that what you hear is false, and what you see is true. The head of the 6th branch is righteous, and you are a model for all practitioners. Although I have helped once this time, it is far less than the help of the head of the 6th branch. I don't want the reward. Head of the 6th branch, take care." After finishing the last sentence, Mo Yang cupped his hands and left without saying anything. He quickened his pace and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Among the practitioners, there were few righteous people, but many selfish ones. Su Jinan struggled to get up and tried to refine healing elixirs regardless of the dirt on his body. It seemed that he was really kind and let Mo Yang leave. There were many casualties in the camp, but more were unharmed. The half of the destroyed camp was quickly rebuilt. Su Jinan moved to the main tent and took out all the elixirs he had to heal himself. When the sun rose, most of his injuries had been healed. He didn't have time to care about the elixirs. He immediately summoned his confidant and ordered with a gloomy face, "Be prepared for both sides. If you can't satisfy the old ancestor, push Mo Yang out. This person fled with all the demon crystals 2 days ago. Everyone was fooled by him. Do you understand?" "I understand." After that, Su Jinan staggered to his feet and walked toward the mine. Compared to sect cultivators, rogue cultivators are really too naive. Su Jinan laughed in a low voice. It was hard to tell whether he was laughing at Mo Yang or himself. At this moment, Su Daiyin and the hawk-nosed elder arrived at the gate of the 2nd branch. Seeing that the courtyard that was supposed to be Su Li's residence turned into ruins, Su Daiyin's expression changed slightly, and she immediately flew over. The hook-nosed old man narrowed his eyes and followed behind unhurriedly. What's going on? Why was Su Jojo's residence destroyed? Where is Su Jojo? Su Daiyin flew over the ruins and smelled a trace of blood. Her face suddenly became gloomy, and she immediately turned and flew to the mountain peak where she lived. Before the figure approached, Su Daiyin saw a gray flowing light flying out and landing in front of her. Soul formation stage. Seeing the gray flowing light, the hawk-nosed elder, who was indifferent, changed his expression immediately. After Su Daiyin's grandmother died, there was a soul formation stage cultivator behind her. While he was surprised, the gray light dissipated, and the extremely ordinary face of the middle-aged man in linen appeared. But the hawk-nosed elder was even more shocked. He is so young, and he has the potential to pass the test. Uncle Guang, did you take action? Seeing the middle-aged man in linen flying out openly, Su Daiyin immediately understood something, and her nervous expression eased a little. The middle-aged man in linen nodded and glanced at the hawk-nosed elder behind her. After a signal with his eyes, he said, "It's a little complicated. You and this, fellow practitioner of Su family, follow me." "All right." Hearing the way the middle-aged man in linen called him and what Su Daiyin said before, the hawk-nosed elder vaguely guessed the relationship between them. He nodded with a smile and motioned the middle-aged man to lead the way. Seeing this, the middle-aged man in linen showed no extra expression on his face. He turned around and landed in the courtyard of the mountain peak. Su Dian's mother, who was worried, was delighted when she saw Su Dian. Then, she was shocked when she saw the hawk-nosed elder behind her. She was about to salute, but the hawk-nosed elder stopped her before she got up. Don't be so polite. Speaking of which, you are my adopted daughter-in-law. I should be thankful that you don't blame me after so many years of absence. The hawk-nosed elder smiled, and Su Dian's mother also showed a smile on her face. She reluctantly responded. Old ancestor, how can we blame you as juniors? That's great, hee. The middle-aged man in linen stood aside and didn't speak. He naturally knew that the hawk-nosed elder was so kind for his sake, and there must be some misunderstanding. However, he didn't intend to explain. He directly pushed the door open and let Su Xianyun and Su Zheng out. Master! Seeing Su Dian, the two who were depressed immediately cheered up and surrounded her. Then they saw the hawk-nosed elder and saluted in shock. Old ancestor. The hawk-nosed elder nodded. What happened? Tell me the details. Since I came here, I can't ignore it. Su Xianyun immediately told what happened before in detail. He was eloquent and portrayed Su Dingchuan's domineering attitude deeply. Even Su Zheng, who experienced the scene himself, couldn't help but admire him secretly. If it were up to him, he would definitely not be as vivid as the eldest senior fellow apprentice. The hawk-nosed elder frowned. According to what you said, Su Dingchuan is indeed unfair. Su Dingxian wantonly killed the genius disciples of our Su family, and this matter will not be tolerated. Where is Su Jouzhou? Also, where did Wenbing go? Su Dian couldn't help but ask after Su Xianyun didn't mention these two people for a long time. As soon as the words came out, Su Xianyun's face suddenly became extremely gloomy, and he couldn't speak for a while. Su Zheng directly stood up and said with hatred, Master. Wenbing. Bah, Su Wenbing is ungrateful. He not only lied through his teeth and smeared Su Jouzhou, but also betrayed you and directly joined Su Dingxian's faction. What? Su Dian's body shook slightly, as if she couldn't believe what Su Zheng said. What are you talking about? Master, Su Xianyun said bitterly, junior fellow apprentice is right. Third junior fellow apprentice, betrayed us. Su Jouzhou saved the lives of the three of us, and it is untenable because of his interference. Su Dingxian can take this opportunity to make trouble. As for Su Jouzhou, she is missing. Su Dian listened blankly and was speechless for a long time. She only left for a few days. How could such a big change happen in the family? The hawk-nosed elder listened with relish. After everyone was silent, he said first, in this case, only by finding Su Jouzhou can we know whether Su Dingxian lied or not. If Su Jouzhou is not as unbearable as they said, but her foundation is not damaged and there is still a chance to recover, then I will take care of this matter to the end. Dian, don't worry. As he said, he turned to look at the middle-aged man in linen and finally revealed his purpose. He asked gently, fellow practitioner, may I know your name? The middle-aged man in linen didn't answer him immediately, but looked at Su Dian's mother, who seemed to be thinking about something. After a while, he turned his head and said expressionlessly, my surname is Ling. It turns out to be fellow practitioner Ling, the hawk-nosed elder echoed, seeming to distinguish the truth of this sentence. Then he also said his name. I'm Su Qinke, the grand elder of Su family. I don't think you are from Jouzhou region, right? The middle-aged man in linen shook his head. I'm just a casual practitioner. Su Qinke's eyes suddenly brightened when he heard this. Are you interested in being the guest grand elder of Su family? Don't worry, I'm going to find Su Jouzhou. The middle-aged man in linen didn't wait for Su Qinke to continue and turned to leave the yard. The smile on Su Qinke's face froze, but he recovered quickly. He walked to Su Dian's mother with a smile and asked, Xiaoru, how do you know fellow practitioner Ling? Is it convenient for you to tell me? Su Dian's mother was in a dilemma, but due to Su Qinke's identity, she had to say, it's not a secret. I did him a little favor. I don't know why he stayed. What favor? Su Chinka became serious, and there was a trace of aggressiveness in his tone. Su Dian froze aside and was anxious. She didn't know how to help her mother get through this hurdle. She didn't expect that Su Chinka would show such a face as soon as he saw Uncle Guang. He not only poached Uncle Guang in front of her, but also asked about Uncle Guang's origin. At this moment, Su Dian had a strong premonition that Su Chinka's coming to the second branch might not only not help her, but also bring her big trouble. After the middle-aged man in linen went down the mountain, he came to a mortal city. Both Su Dian and Su Xianyun believed in Su Jouzhou. He believed in Su Dian's ability. Since Su Jouzhou was not what Su Dingxian's branch said, he could think about it the other way around. Then the woman must have sensed something and left the sphere of influence of the second branch in advance. She was seriously injured and lost her cultivation, so she couldn't escape far. The best hiding place is the mortal city. The middle-aged man in linen's eyes flashed, and he looked up at the city plaque. Desu City. There was only one word difference between this name and the place called Desu Town, in his memory. The middle-aged man in linen was in a trance for a moment, but he restrained himself in an instant. It's a ridiculous dream. I should have forgotten it long ago. Thinking of this, the middle-aged man in linen lifted his feet and walked into the city gate. The two soldiers guarding the city saw that he looked ordinary but had an extraordinary momentum, so they didn't step forward to court death. A top-notch 100 refined sword, selling it cheaply. Freshly made sugar-coated haws. It's free if it's not sweet. The peace and joy of the mortal city seemed to have nothing to do with the cold, sinister, and deceitful circle of practitioners. They operated in two different worlds. Perhaps the middle-aged man in linen controlled his emotions in advance, his face didn't fluctuate as before. He walked through the crowd expressionlessly, and his divine awareness unscrupulously swept over the houses and pavilions. Suddenly, he froze. Chapter 456. On the side of the street, in an ordinary secular restaurant. The middle-aged man in linen stared blankly at the woman in red sitting by the window on the second floor with half of her face exposed. That face was so familiar. He would never forget it. However, the owner of this face should have long been scared out of his wits. In shock, the middle-aged man in linen had no time to shock the world. He disappeared in a flash and landed in front of the window on the second floor. It's a practitioner. Run. Ah! The bustling second floor was immediately scared away by him. In the blink of an eye, it was empty. The woman in red was scared stiff. She looked at the figure that suddenly appeared in front of her and didn't dare to move. The middle-aged man in linen stared at the woman in red and was speechless for a long time. He saw the fear and panic in the woman's eyes, which didn't seem to be fake. It was not her. She just looked like her. If that person was really reincarnated. The middle-aged man in linen recalled the origin of that person he had inquired about. He shook his head and was about to leave. How could there be an afterlife if the natural law didn't tolerate it? The middle-aged man in linen took 2 steps and suddenly felt something was wrong. No, the dishes on the table. He narrowed his eyes and suddenly turned around. He walked to the table and sat down. He was so familiar with the dishes on the table. Beggar's chicken, osmanthus cake, and 100 g of heart-burning liquor. He had tasted these dishes more than once in the secular world after returning to Qingshui Circle. But without exception, he vomited after one mouthful. They were not as delicious as before. Could it be a coincidence? The middle-aged man in linen was silent for a long time. He looked at the woman sitting across the table and trembled slightly. He hesitated for a moment and finally asked, "Who are you?" The woman in red just said a word. The middle-aged man in linen suddenly frowned and tore her ear. Crash! A thin mask fell from her face. When the mask fell, the woman in red revealed her true face. The fear on her face disappeared instantly and became gloomy. Su Jouzhou. The middle-aged man in linen recognized her at a glance when he saw the woman's face. He showed a rare astonishment on his indifferent face. "It's you." Su Li sneered and said sarcastically, "Doesn't your Su family want to kill me? Why are you so surprised to find me? Now that I'm seriously injured, since I was unlucky enough to be discovered by you, if you want to kill me or cut me into pieces, it's up to you." The middle-aged man in linen sighed slightly and tried to make his voice gentle. "Su Dian asked me to come to you." "House owner." Su Li was surprised and seemed to have figured out a lot in an instant. She said in a respectful voice, "It turns out that I misunderstood you. If you are on the side of the first elder, you will kill me immediately after seeing through my identity. You will not talk to me calmly." The middle-aged man nodded slightly and looked at the mask in his hand. After pondering for a moment, he couldn't help asking, "Where did you get this mask from?" Su Li's eyes flashed. She shook her head and smiled bitterly. "It's just a mask made of rice and flour. If you like it, I can make one for you." "Then this face, what's wrong with this face?" Su Li asked in confusion. Seeing that she really didn't know anything, the middle-aged man hesitated for a moment and finally said, "This face is very similar to an old friend of mine. Have you seen her somewhere?" Hearing this, Su Li's narrow and long eyes flashed a vague arc, but she said helplessly, "Senior, I just wanted to escape. I just made this mask casually. I don't have any reference. I'm afraid it's just a coincidence." The middle-aged man in linen was stunned and looked at the food on the table. Was there really such a coincidence in the world? "I haven't thanked you for coming to find me. May I know your name, so that I can remember your name and repay you in the future?" Su Li said softly, and her tone was slightly heavier when she said the last 4 words. The middle-aged man in linen didn't care. His last name had been exposed, and it was meaningless to keep hiding. "My last name is Ling, Senior Ling," Su Li called, and her eyes were full of light. "Ling Qinglan. Or Ling Mo. Or Ling Ping." She stared at the face of the middle-aged man in linen, but she couldn't find anyone who matched the features in her memory. At this moment, there was only one thing that could be confirmed. The middle-aged man in linen was also a member of the reincarnation mirror. "I'll take you back." The middle-aged man in linen quickly came out of the dilemma. With his experience and state of mind, he wouldn't waste time on this matter if it wasn't related to Su Li. "Back?" Su Li raised her eyebrows. "Senior, I just escaped from there. Do you want me to go back?" Perhaps because of the mask, the middle-aged man in linen didn't get angry in the face of her questioning. He just said seriously, "If Su Dian doesn't care about you, I will protect you." Even if it was fake and irrelevant, as long as it was similar to that woman, he would try his best to make it up to her. Whether it was Ling Li or him, they owed her too much, and they could never repay it. Su Li's eyes changed slightly, and she asked in a low voice, "I met you by chance, and I believe that there is no free lunch in the world. Why?" Perhaps Su Li's persistence let the middle-aged man in linen see more memories. He twitched his mouth and tried to show a smile, but he found that he couldn't. After his efforts were in vain, he shook his head, waved his sleeves to roll up Su Li, and rose into the nothingness, leaving an unnoticeable sigh. Half a day later, the middle-aged man in linen returned to Su Li's mother's yard. He immediately sensed the tense atmosphere, and even faintly smelled a trace of blood. His face changed slightly, and he quickly flashed into the yard. Su Li's eyes flashed, and she followed him, spreading out her divine awareness silently. After entering Jindan realm, her psychic awareness had transformed into divine awareness, which covered a wider range and was more inconspicuous. Even people in Huashan realm couldn't sense it. In other words, people like Su Dingchuan and Su Chinka couldn't detect her spying at all. Before stepping into the yard, Su Li saw Su Chinka's face in her divine awareness, and her eyes instantly turned cold. This person, she would recognize him even if he turned into ashes. There were 3 grand elders who supported the prosperity of the Su family. This person was the second eldest. In the childhood memory that she retrieved, it was this person who advocated to provide her flesh and blood to the talents of the Su family for eating, and he himself did it more than once. Later, when she went to Yushu sect, this person showed strong killing intent and hostility to her more than once. Now thinking about it, he should be afraid that she would kill him when she grew up. Only when Su Li was really dead could he be at ease. Now, you should be quite at ease. Su Li's lips curved imperceptibly, and she slowly walked into the yard. As soon as she appeared, all the eyes in the yard immediately focused on her. Su Li glanced around, and her eyes paused slightly on Su Dingchuan and Su Dingxian. She skipped Su Qinke and finally fell on Su Daiyin. When Su Daiyin saw Su Jojo, she was full of surprise. She hurriedly leaned over and grasped Su Li's hands tightly. "Jojo, it's really great that you are fine." Su Li felt that something was stuffed in her hands. She nodded calmly and said with shame, "Master, I made you worry. I noticed that someone wanted to kill me, so I escaped in advance. Master, please don't blame me." Su Daiyin trusted Su Li very much. She had already guessed it in her heart. Now that it was confirmed, she didn't doubt what Su Li said at all. She nodded and sighed, "How can I blame you? If you really died in the hands of the villains." Before she finished her words, Su Dingxian suddenly interrupted her loudly, "Nonsense. Su Daiyin, if you want to make up a lie, there should be a limit. When did I send someone to kill Su Jojo? Don't slander me." Su Daiyin comforted Su Jojo and raised her head with a sneer, "I just said that the villains were chasing after her. Is it really good for First Elder to admit it in such a hurry? You." Su Dingxian's chest heaved violently when he heard the words, and his lungs were about to explode. It was the first time that he was made a scapegoat for no reason, and he couldn't even clear his name. Indeed, he wanted to do something secretly to make Su Jojo a real waste. However, before he could carry out all of this, he received a secret report from Ye-er. But later, Ye-er died, and the palace was destroyed. Until now, he couldn't find any evidence to prove that everything he did was based on evidence. What's wrong? Isn't First Elder usually very talkative? Why are you so reticent when it comes to dealing with Bao Gongting? Seeing this, Su Daiyin thought that Su Dingchuan had a guilty conscience, so she sneered mercilessly. Su Li stood behind her and blinked. How could Su Dingxian be defeated before she made a move? This was unacceptable. She turned her head and saw Su Xianyun with a pale face. She immediately moved over and whispered, "A lot of things seem to have happened after I left." Su Xianyun covered his chest and couldn't help coughing twice. Then he transmitted the sound to Su Li about what happened in the past few days. "After Uncle Guang went to find you, the Grand Elder of Su family seemed to fancy Uncle Guang's strength and had been inquiring about Uncle Guang's origin. Master refused to tell him, which caused the Grand Elder's dissatisfaction and left. It didn't take long for Su Dingxian's people to come. Because of you, Su Dingxian had a big quarrel with Master. Finally, they had a fight. Master's grandmother was almost killed by a slap. I was injured at that time. Later, the Grand Elder came back and stopped the fight. The two sides are in a stalemate." Su Xianyun smiled bitterly. Su Li glanced at Su Jing again and found that he was staring at Su Wenbing fiercely, as if he was looking at his mortal enemy. On the other hand, Su Wenbing was expressionless, as if he had completely forgotten Su Daiyan's hundreds of years of kindness. He was really ruthless. The middle-aged man in linen came to the wheelchair of Su Daiyan's mother. Although Su Daiyan's mother looked calm, it could be seen that she was greatly frightened. The middle-aged man's face darkened, but Su Daiyan's mother hurriedly pulled his sleeve and shook her head pleadingly. The eyes of the middle-aged man in linen softened. He clenched his fist for a moment and finally released it. He stood beside the wheelchair without saying anything. Seeing this scene, Su Li was lost in thought. What was he afraid of? All right, let's all quiet down. I understand now. Are you Su Jojo? At this time, Su Qinke, who had been silent since the return of the middle-aged man in linen, suddenly opened his mouth and stared at Su Li. Chapter 457. Junior Su Jojo pays respect to the Grand Elder. Su Li bowed her head to salute. Su Chinka squinted and walked over to pull Su Li's arm without saying a word. He cut it with his finger, and a drop of blood spurted out immediately. Coldness flashed in Su Li's eyes, but she pretended to be in pain. Su Dian's face was even more gloomy. Su Chinka was too unscrupulous. But Su Chinka didn't feel anything wrong. He took out a transparent crystal ball for testing spiritual root from the universe ring and waved his hand. The drop of blood floating in the air fell and immediately integrated into the crystal ball. The color of the crystal ball gradually changed. This spiritual testing ball was obtained from a forging master. It is very precious. Even if you have lost all your cultivation and your foundation is destroyed, it can still test your spiritual root and potential. Su Chinka's voice echoed in the courtyard. Su Daiyin and Su Dingxian's faces changed slightly. As Su Chinka said before, Su Li's potential would determine everyone's fate. Su Daiyin unconsciously covered her chest with her hand, and her heart beat faster. She always felt that something was wrong. Could this kind of crystal ball really test how much foundation Su Li had left? If it was Su Chinka's lie, Su Dingchuan would definitely take the opportunity to play tricks. Their branch, Su Daiyin, was not the only one who thought of this. Su Dingxian also looked gloomy and a little confused. Su Chinka was obviously invited by Su Daiyin. Why didn't he help Su Daiyin? Was he on the fair side? Su Dingxian thought of this and sneered in his heart. Even if the sun rose from the west, he wouldn't believe that the Grand Elder of the Su family would be stupid and only care about fairness. The middle-aged man in linen stood behind and guarded Su Daiyan's mother. Seeing this scene, his body gradually tightened like a bow on a string. Su Daiyan's mother noticed this scene and her heart contracted. She immediately guessed something and looked at the crystal ball. The transparent crystal ball suddenly burst out a burst of black light. Su Chinka's face changed dramatically. He immediately withdrew his hand, and the crystal ball exploded with a boom. The shockwave, which wasn't too violent, caused the tiles to rustle. Su Chinka looked at the pile of debris on the ground with a gloomy expression, but he was at a loss in his heart. This was an ordinary spiritual testing ball modified by himself after he left. Even if Su Li had a great spiritual root, it would never be detected. He wanted to take this opportunity to challenge Su Daiyin and force the middle-aged man in sackcloth to join the Su family. But how could the crystal ball explode with just a drop of Su Jojo's blood? Su Jojo's bloodline was not simple. Su Chinka felt a chill in his heart, but he didn't show any change on his face. Instead, he took advantage of this and said angrily, "How dare you? Su Daiyin, you lied." Not only does Su Jojo have no foundation, but she is also contaminated by alien blood, which makes me lose such a treasure. Yes. He was originally worried that the middle-aged man would question the authenticity of the spirit ball, but now that the spirit ball had exploded, all he had to do was show a pained and angry expression, and no one would question the authenticity of the spirit ball anymore. Su Chinka was more than 5,000 years old. He had experienced many ups and downs, so his acting skills were even more superb. Su Dingxian and Su Daiyin were convinced by Su Li's anger. Su Dingxian smiled immediately. Su Daiyan's face turned pale. She stepped back subconsciously and stood in front of Su Li to protect her. She bit her lips and kept silent. Only Su Li and the middle-aged man knew that this person was talking nonsense. Su Li naturally knew that she was not injured at all, and the explosion of the spirit testing ball was mostly caused by the blood poison. The middle-aged man in linen used to have a good life. There was no spirit testing ball in the entire Qingshui circle. How could the Su family, a family with less than 10,000 years of foundation, have it? Ha ha ha, Su Daiyin, what else do you have to say now? Su Dingxian felt that he was going to win and became complacent. I have told you that the rules set by the ancestors can't be violated. But you are still young, so you act recklessly and waste the resources of our Su family. Do you really think that the foundation of our Su family can be easily obtained? Su Dayin turned a deaf ear to him and looked at Su Chinka with deep disappointment in her eyes. She should have seen it clearly. After all, the Su family was rotten to the core. They would do anything to achieve their goals, which was contrary to everything she insisted on. What was the point of staying in such a Su family? She took a deep breath, and her voice changed from respectful to cold. Su Chinka, what do you want? Su Chinka heard that she called his name directly. He was stunned for a moment, and then his expression became gloomier. Did they have a falling out? Well, Junior. Since you don't want to be a member of the Su family, I will fulfill your wish. But, this person must stay. He pointed at the middle-aged man in linen. I will not give up anyone who can strengthen our Su family. It is a good deal to lose Su Dayin in exchange for a Huashan realm. Su Dayin sneered. Su Chinka, Uncle Guang is not a member of the Su family. His freedom, Before he finished his words, he saw the middle-aged man in linen walk out of his sight and stand in the field. You step back first. Take Su Jiuzhou and Su Xianyun to your mother. Su Dingchuan and Su Chinka surrounded the middle-aged man from the left and right. Are you going to fight? Su Dayin's expression changed slightly. She knew that she was not qualified to participate in a fight of this level. She hurriedly pulled Su Li to step back, although she didn't know what was the use of stepping back to her mother after a fight in such a small space. Uncle Guang, Su Xianyun covered his chest and stepped back weakly. Looking at the middle-aged man in linen who was not strong, he seemed to see a mountain. When could he take the responsibility of protecting the master and mistress like Uncle Guang? Ho ho, why do you have to do this, fellow practitioner Ling? Our Su family can provide you with the best environment to practice. You are younger than us, so it is not difficult for you to break through to nature's test. Su Chinka said with a smile, a good bird chooses a good tree to nest in. This is the truth since ancient times. With Su Dayin, it is extremely difficult for you to break through the shackles. I think you understand it, don't you? The middle-aged man in linen showed a cold smile. I'm very curious. Why do you have to take back an unloyal Huashan realm? People of the Su family are not idiots. You know that cultivating me will only make your Su family one more enemy, but you have to go all the way. Why? Su Chinka suddenly laughed. Our Su family has foreign Huashan realm offerings, and there has never been any betrayal. They have all been reformed by our Su family and become the most loyal guardians of our Su family. Reformed? The middle-aged man in linen raised his eyebrows and nodded. I forgot that your Su family has the illusionarizing powder. Hearing this, Su Chinka's face changed slightly. You know about the illusionarizing powder. The middle-aged man in linen nodded slightly and waved his hands on both sides. Then two spiritual daggers with strong blood energy suddenly appeared. As soon as the two daggers appeared, a strong evil spirit spread out immediately. The blood waves rolled and illuminated the whole courtyard into a dazzling blood color. At this moment, the ordinary middle-aged man in linen seemed to incarnate into the Shura who killed countless people. His bloody eyes glanced around, and Su Dingxian and others suddenly had goosebumps all over their bodies as if they were electrocuted. They even had a feeling of facing death. Su Chinka's and Su Dingchuan's expressions changed greatly. Without saying a word, they shouted and took out their best magic treasures to fight with each other. The middle-aged man in linen pursed his lips and shook his wrists. The two coins turned into two huge black snakes, which opened their bloody mouths and bit them with a disgusting stench. Seeing this, Su Chinka and Su Dingchuan didn't panic at all. The magic weapons in their hands flew out and turned into a corpse-yellow demon river and a piece of shroud, rushing to the black snakes. The corpse-refining sect. The middle-aged man in linen was shocked and immediately changed from attacking to defending. When he saw the floating corpses in the corpse river, he immediately guessed that the Su family was the one who forced him to submit. The two black snakes were like buckets, tightly wrapping around the hemp-robed middle-aged man, allowing the corpse river to wash over them. However, after the corpse river disappeared, the dried corpses in the river left behind shadows, clinging to the scales of the black snakes, emitting green smoke that only came from corrosion. Then, a piece of shroud quickly enlarged and wrapped the middle-aged man tightly together with the shadows of the corpses. Layers of black and yellow corpse water seeped out. The two black snakes immediately howled in pain, and the shadows of the spiritual daggers flickered. "Uncle Guang!" Su Dian exclaimed and was about to rush out, but was held back by her mother. She looked back at her mother angrily, only to see that her mother had burst into tears. It was used after all. "It's all a sin." "Mom, what are you talking about?" Su Dian grasped her mother's hand tightly, but she didn't have the energy to understand her mother's words. She looked at the huge shroud in the courtyard, and her heart was entangled. But what was Su Li doing at this moment? She was lowering her head and looking at her feet. To be precise, she was looking at the tactical matrix under her feet. The tactical matrix was divided into yin and yang, which were two sides of a fan. The pattern on the fan was very familiar to Su Li no matter how she looked at it. She looked thoughtfully at the terrible scene in the field, and then looked up at the isolation tactical matrix that Su Dingchuan had secretly arranged and now appeared. Although it was not as good as the camouflage tactical matrix that she had improved, it was definitely above the 10th grade tactical matrix. The tactical matrix for camouflage should be used carefully after being modified by the demon crystal of purple demon. Then, Su Li reached out and took down the reincarnation mirror from her waist, and the little beast in the mirror suddenly became nervous. Obviously, Su Li had discovered it long ago, but she didn't mean to communicate with it, which made it feel uneasy all the time. Now, Su Li showed signs of using it, which made it feel extremely reassured. It was absolutely impossible in the past. But at this moment, there was a sudden sound of cloth tearing in the field, and then it exploded. Before Su Dingchuan and Su Qinke had time to withdraw their magic weapons, the demon river and the shroud were all turned into pieces. They suffered from the backfire, and blood spurted out of their mouths like it was free. Their pneuma quickly weakened. "Uncle Guang." Su Dian was surprised. When she saw the middle-aged man in linen who got rid of the shroud, the smile on her face instantly turned into horror. The clothes of the middle-aged man in linen had been corroded, and even his skin and hair had been melted, revealing his red flesh and blood. He looked like a beast that had just been skinned, and he was extremely miserable. In the center of his chest, an ice crystal seemed to have grown on his body, exuding an amazing chill. In just a moment, the whole mountain was covered with a layer of white frost. He staggered and forcibly supported himself. He looked at Su Dingchuan and Su Dian coldly. "The Lianshi faction deserves its reputation." "You know the Lianshi faction." Su Qinke saw the miserable appearance of the middle-aged man in linen, and calmed down. "There are not many people who can get rid of the shroud of the corpse river. Are you really not going to join us?" The middle-aged man grinned, and his badly mutilated face looked more horrible. "I'm not going to be a Yin corpse yet." "That's not up to you." Su Dingchuan snorted coldly. He calmed down and was about to stand up and grab the middle-aged man in linen. The middle-aged man in linen sighed, and gently pressed the ice crystal on his chest. The chill was getting worse. Su Qinke and Su Dian changed their expressions. When they were about to take action, an extremely untimely voice suddenly sounded. "Master, if I may be so bold to ask." Chapter 458. Maybe the voice was so calm that it didn't seem to be in a life-and-death crisis. Su Dingchuan and Su Qinke stopped at the same time and looked behind the middle-aged man in linen. Su Jojo, Su Qinke's face darkened, and he instinctively felt that something was wrong. But Su Dingchuan didn't think so much. He sneered and said, "Fellow practitioner Ling, with your strength, you could have left easily. But you lost your life for these weaklings. How touching." The middle-aged man in linen was silent. Su Dian's face was pale, and she felt extremely uncomfortable. Then Su Li's voice came again, Master, Su Dian couldn't help but feel agitated by such an inappropriate question. She wanted to scold Su Li, but she heard Su Dian's mother sigh before she said anything. Now is not the time to ask these questions. Little girl, what do you want to do? Su Li just stared at Su Dian's mother. Su Dian's mother sighed more deeply and whispered, my surname is. Su Dingchuan couldn't help but get angry when he saw Su Li completely ignored his existence. He strode over and slapped on the tactical matrix barrier that protected everyone. Boom! The violent wind collided with the barrier and made an explosion. But to Su Dingchuan's surprise, the tactical matrix just shook a little, but didn't break. An 11th grade tactical matrix? Su Dingchuan's eyes widened, and a touch of greed flashed through his eyes after the shock. The practitioner surnamed Ling had such a treasure that could block the protective matrix of a practitioner in Huashan realm. Seeing this, Su Chinka, who didn't care about it at first, also became serious. He quickly came over and bombarded the barrier with Su Dingchuan without saying anything. Only when the barrier was completely broken could they get the core of the tactical matrix. Su Chinka and Su Dingchuan turned around and saw the determination in each other's eyes. For a moment, the continuous bombardment sounded in the isolation tactical matrix. In order to fight for the core of the tactical matrix, the two completely ignored the seriously injured middle-aged man in linen behind them. Seeing this, the middle-aged man in linen's eyes flashed, but he didn't stop them. Instead, he seized the time to heal himself. It was too difficult for him to launch a sneak attack now. Although the two had their backs to him, they were actually paying attention to the back all the time. As long as he showed any threat, they would definitely kill him first and then continue to bombard the tactical matrix. A trace of mockery flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes as he thought of this. If it could be easily broken through, then how could this fan live up to its name? Pear Blossom Yin Yang Fan. Ever since he brought this fan out of the reincarnation mirror, it had undergone an extremely miraculous change, which even he himself did not understand. But the only thing he could be sure of was that, with the strength of these two people, even if they bombarded it for a day and a night, it was absolutely impossible to break this tactical matrix. When the protective matrix was bombarded, Su Dian and others panicked at first. Later, when they found that they couldn't break it in a short time, they felt a little relieved and couldn't help but worry about the fate of Uncle Guang. This kind of time could not be maintained for too long. Uncle Guang would be in danger when Su Dingchuan and Li Yunhong came to their senses. Auntie Su looked at the middle-aged man outside the array and subconsciously gripped her wheelchair tightly. Senior, you still haven't told me your surname. Su Li's voice sounded again. The slap just interrupted Su Li's mother, and she hadn't gotten the answer yet. Auntie Su raised her head subconsciously. When she saw Su Qianxi's absolutely calm face, her heart skipped a beat. Although their faces were completely different, the calm temperament was so similar. At this moment, Auntie Su even thought that she was possessed. How could she think that a little girl less than 200 years old could be that person? Although she knew it was impossible, Auntie Su's tone instinctively became cautious. Your Excellency, why are you so persistent in knowing my name? Su Dian was nervous. When she suddenly heard this sentence from her mother, she couldn't help but turn her head, and her beautiful eyes slightly widened. What did her mother call Su Jojo? Your Excellency. Su Xianyun and others were also astonished. But Su Li seriously considered for a few seconds and replied, because it is related to a very important guess. Guess? What kind of guess? Auntie Su gradually thought of it, and her lips turned pale at a speed visible to the naked eye. She looked at the young and beautiful Su Li and suddenly felt a chill on her back, as if the person in front of her was not an innocent girl, but a devil who was about to choose someone to devour. The feeling of fear and trembling even exceeded that of the two people who were bombarding the tactical matrix. Sure enough, if you are not a family, don't be a family. Do you still have the leisure to chat at this time? Su Dingxian watched the two old ancestors bombarding the tactical matrix. In his opinion, it was only a matter of time before the barrier was broken. Hearing the conversation in the tactical matrix, he laughed and pointed at Auntie Sue. Isn't it just a name? What's there to hide? Do you want your precious disciple to be a muddled ghost? Su Jojo, let me tell you that the disabled sitting next to you is Yin Shui. She was a talent of the Yin family in those days. Unfortunately, she became disabled and was thrown away by the Yin family like garbage. If it weren't for my Su family. Su Dingxian. Su Daiyin suddenly turned her head, and her eyes were full of killing intent. She shouted sternly, if I don't die, I will make you die without a burial place. Ha ha ha, Su Dingxian laughed cheerfully, great. I'd like to see how you, a dying person, can kill me. Yin Shui. Yin Shui, Su Li called him in a low voice. Auntie Su couldn't help but tremble when she heard her murmur. Su Daiyin, Su Xianyun and others were all focused on Su Dingxian, so they didn't notice it, but Su Chenka did. His hand paused for a moment. Before he could stop, he saw Su Li suddenly take a step forward. It was this step that let her directly leave the protection range of Lihua Yinyang Fan. Su Jojo. Jojo. Su Daiyin and others were shocked. Seeing this scene, Su Dingchuan continued to slap the tactical matrix expressionlessly. He would break the tactical matrix and kill all the people inside even if he was late. Since Su Jojo wanted to die, he didn't mind sending her down in advance. Su Chenka's face was horrified, and he quickly retreated. Bang! The huge palm print slapped on the tactical matrix barrier. Su Dingchuan stared at the empty ground in front of him blankly. Where was she? Su Chenka, since you are here, why are you in a hurry to leave? A faint voice came from behind. Su Dingchuan's scalp was numb. He suddenly looked back, only to see a white and soft fist rapidly enlarging in front of him. He subconsciously wanted to use his magic treasure to resist, but when the palm was about to touch him, he remembered that his magic treasure had been broken by the middle-aged man in linen. The fist print was solid. Boom! Su Dingchuan flew out like a cannonball and slammed into the Lihua Yinyang tactical matrix. His chest collapsed and his eyes almost popped out. Before he could take a breath, he felt the counterforce of the tactical matrix behind him suddenly hit him and directly blasted the flesh on his back into blood foam. Ah! Su Dingchuan screamed and lay on the ground. In the blink of an eye, he could only moan. It seemed that he was not far from death. Su Li looked indifferent and withdrew her hand, as if what she did just now was as common as eating and drinking. Su Jojo? This is Su Jojo. Su Daiyan's eyes were full of disbelief. She didn't lose all her cultivation at all. No, she was not in Jindan realm. How could a practitioner in Jindan realm easily defeat a practitioner in Huashan realm, even if he was seriously injured? As for Su Xianyun and others, they were completely in a daze and couldn't understand the development of the situation. Were they dreaming? Su Jojo. You hid yourself so well. Su Chenka stood not far away from Su Li with his whole body tensed, as if facing a formidable enemy. He said in a dignified voice, I thought fellow practitioner Ling would be the biggest gain of this trip, but I didn't expect that there would be another one. Your drop of blood broke my spiritual testing ball. I should have known that you were not an ordinary person. Su Li curled her lips slightly. The middle-aged man in linen who was healing beside her frowned. This expression was too similar. Thinking of what happened in Desu's city before, he couldn't help but guess. Could this person be the reincarnation of Su Li? That was not right. If Su Li could reincarnate, she should be 1,000 years old now. This woman was clearly less than 200 years old. Su Li looked up at the calm sky, and her right hand brushed the surface of the reincarnation mirror on her waist without a trace. She seemed to be sighing, I wanted to wait for Su Zhuanyan to come, but I didn't expect that the person who came would be you. Do you know my brother? Su Chenka was slightly surprised, but he was not scared by himself. Even if this woman was reincarnated, she was less than 200 years old, and definitely couldn't kill him. He glanced at the old man lying in front of Su Daiyin, who was covered with blood. Su Dingchuan was just careless, and he was unlucky. He was seriously injured, so he couldn't blame others. Not only do I know him, I am also an acquaintance. Su Li tilted her head. I haven't seen you for a long time. I think your head will be a good gift. Before she finished her words, Su Li's figure had disappeared. Su Chinka, who was a little relieved, suddenly changed his face. Without saying a word, he opened his mouth and spat out a round golden ball. He spat out 3 mouthfuls of essence and blood. The golden ball absorbed the essence and immediately wriggled and grew larger, wrapping Su Chinka's whole body. At the same time, he didn't care about the pain. He took out an elixir from the ring and was about to put it into his mouth. But at the moment when the elixir was about to enter his mouth, he stopped. You can't eat my things. Su Chinka's face was full of horror. His whole body trembled violently, but he did not dare to move. It seemed that as long as he made any abnormal movements, the coldness hanging on his vital parts would instantly penetrate his body and make it collapse. He let the smiling woman in front of him gently take the elixir from his hand. There was still a round golden ball in her hand, beating gently. The life-saving magic ball didn't work. How could it be possible? He had relied on this thing for many years, and the magic ball had saved his life countless times. Why did it fail at this time? You are also in Huashan realm. It's really disappointing that you are so vulnerable. Su Li said slowly. Su Dingchuan, who had just woken up, was so angry that he fainted again. If his magic treasure was broken and he was seriously injured, how could this woman take advantage of him? Su Chinka trembled and looked at the woman in front of him. If he knew Su Dingchuan's thoughts, he would definitely not agree. Suddenly, Su Li's face approached him and whispered in his ear, "It's time to return the meat you ate." Chapter 459. Eat his flesh. Su Chen's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of pinholes. The picture that he had suppressed in his heart came out again like a devil. In an instant, a chill rose from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. You are, Su Chinka only said one word, and Su Li's gentle eyes suddenly became sharp. The matrix patterns floating around Su Chinka immediately came alive. They drilled into Su Chinka's skin in the blink of an eye and turned into a big black net, sealing Su Chinka's consciousness. Su Chinka couldn't die yet. Besides, Su Li wouldn't be happy if he died so easily. Sealing him temporarily was the best way. After dealing with Su Chinka, Su Li glanced at the gloomy sky and walked to Su Dingchuan. After sealing him in the same way, she had time to focus on the middle-aged man in linen. When she walked to the middle-aged man in linen sitting on the ground, Yin Shue's heart was suddenly in her throat, and her nails that grasped the wheelchair turned white. Mom, what are you hiding from me? Su Daiyin looked at the scene in front of her and was still confused. She didn't understand why Su Jojo suddenly became so unfathomable. And judging from her mother's reaction, did they have a big grudge against Su Jojo? Su Daiyin's mother woke up with a start and hurriedly said in a trembling voice, Daiyin, no matter what she asks, you must answer truthfully. Don't hide anything, understand? Who is she? Su Jojo. Su Daiyin felt her mother's fear, and her heart tightened. You don't know how terrible she is. Daiyin, you must remember what I said. If she wants to kill me, you must not stop her. Otherwise, everyone will die. Hearing her mother's nonsense, Su Daiyin was in a trance and didn't know what to say. In any case, she couldn't be as gentle as usual. At this moment, the middle-aged man in linen who was healing finally opened his eyes. The physical body of a practitioner of Huashan realm had been transformed several times, and his healing ability was extremely strong. After he cleaned up the corpse water on his body, a thin layer of scab appeared on the surface of his body. Finally, he didn't look bloody. Looking at Su Jojo, the middle-aged man in linen looked very calm. What did you recognize? Su Li didn't hide and said, that fan. The middle-aged man in linen clothes nodded lightly. His eyes were filled with relief and calmness. Besides that, there was actually a trace of gratification of a senior looking at a junior. It seems that after the reincarnation mirror was broken, she did leave something behind. As her successor, you have such a cultivation at such a young age. You didn't disgrace your master's name. Su Li was surprised and didn't speak. The middle-aged man in linen thought that she acquiesced. He grabbed the spiritual dagger beside him and handed it to Su Li. He said calmly, I am the enemy of your master. Killing me is enough to avenge your master. Su Li took the dagger and felt it was cold. The middle-aged man in linen pointed at Yin Shui on the wheelchair. She is already disabled and can't live long. Even if you killed her, it would be meaningless. No. He has already paid the price. It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, we wouldn't have entered. Yin Shui screamed and fell off the wheelchair. Before she could finish her sentence, she seemed to have fainted from the shock. Su Dayin was so scared that she quickly hugged her mother for a while. After confirming that Yin Shui was just unconscious, she breathed a sigh of relief and turned her head. The complexity in her eyes was indescribable. She would never have thought that the development of the situation would be completely out of her control in just one day, and even involve the grievances of her mother's generation. She vaguely remembered that when she was a child, her mother was also a talent, but now her mother became a disabled person. Was it because of Su Jojo's master? Su Li looked at the calm middle-aged man in linen clothes. Her eyes flashed and she asked with interest, should I call you Ling Qinglan or Emo? Ling Qinglan's face changed slightly, and then he was even more gratified. The inheritance you got is very complete. You even know my name. Su Li threw the spiritual dagger in her hand. Looking at the gloomy sky above her head, she threw the spiritual dagger to Ling Qinglan's side with a clank. Seeing Ling Qinglan's astonished face, Su Li smiled. Let's talk somewhere else. Ling Qinglan was slightly stunned. Then he only felt that a black shadow flashed in front of him. Su Dingchuan and Su Chenke, who were sealed, disappeared in place. He didn't see how Su Jojo took them away. But when he thought that she was the successor of that person, he didn't feel strange. An hour later, in a secular restaurant in Desu City, Su Li chose a table of wine and dishes and ordered them. Su Dayin, Ling Qinglan, Yin Shui and Su Xianyun sat at the table. Su Xianyun and Su Zheng were dumbfounded. They sat on both sides of Su Li. In addition to the joy of getting their lives back, there were only doubts in their hearts. Who am I? Where am I? Ling Qinglan was very calm. Looking at the extra dishes on the table, nostalgia flashed in his eyes from time to time. Yin Shui's mood was much more stable than before. She finally realized that Su Jojo didn't seem to kill them, at least for now. Perhaps, she hasn't found out what happened that year. Yin Shui sighed. She was still full of worries and didn't dare to tell Su Dayin too much. Su Dayin sat silently beside her mother and looked at Su Jojo. She was waiting. Since her mother didn't want to tell her the truth, she hoped that Su Jojo could tell her. No matter how cruel the truth was, she was willing to accept it. Don't be nervous. I treat you to a meal because I have something important to ask for your help. Su Li put the dishes on the table and raised her head. Her first words made Yin Shui and Ling Qinglan deeply shocked. Jiu. Senior Su, please say it. You saved all of our lives this time. No matter what it is, as long as you don't mind, I will definitely help you. Su Zheng didn't see the reaction of Ling Qinglan and Su Zheng. He immediately patted his chest and promised loudly. Su Xianyun secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Su Zheng was a hothead. The originally delicate atmosphere had been stirred up by him, and it actually eased up quite a bit. He didn't understand why she had to come to such a distant secular city to talk in another place. However, even Uncle Guang didn't have any opinion. He didn't dare to ask Su Jojo anyway. Su Li glanced at Su Zheng and chuckled, "It's not a big help. I just hope that the head of the second branch can maintain the operation of the second branch as usual and change the current Su family according to your will. Get rid of the bad people and make the second branch into your ideal family. Are you willing to do that?" Su Dian's eyes brightened immediately. But she was not a brainless person. She immediately thought of the key and frowned, then Su Dingchuan and Su Chinka, "You don't have to worry about them. I will deal with them. They won't cause you any trouble." Su Dian pursed her lips and nodded gently. For a moment, she felt that she saw the bright moon after the rain. But she knew very well that there were no good people in the cultivation circle. She took a slight breath and asked cautiously, "Then what's your purpose of doing this? You lurked in the second branch for this, didn't you?" "Of course." Su Li smiled slightly, "But the request is simple. The only thing you need to pay attention to is that the second branch will no longer listen to the main branch of the Su family, but me." Su Dian's eyebrows twitched. Was this simple? She thought about it carefully and found that it was really simple. As long as Su Jiuzhou could solve the two big problems, Su Dingchuan and Su Chinka, she could completely do whatever she wanted without any worries. After coming out of the Tiannan Chaos Zone, I was indeed extremely weak for a period of time because of the rules of that space. During this time, I also saw your kindness, which is exactly what I want. I won't interfere with your management of the second branch. Even the transfer of practitioners is pitifully small, so you can rest assured and do it." Su Li smiled and completely dispelled Su Dian's last doubt. After being tricked by Su Dingchuan and Su Chinka, she had no sense of belonging to the Su family at all. Therefore, she agreed very quickly and even showed a smile on her face, "Then I will need your help in the future." "No problem." Su Li put down a carrier rune in front of Su Dian. "You must have guessed that Su Yuanhai is one of my people. If you encounter any difficulties in the future, you can find me or Su Yuanhai through this rune." "I understand." Su Dian nodded gently. At this moment, she didn't feel uncomfortable about Su Jiuzhou's previous concealment. Perhaps, she began to plan to annex the second branch since she entered it. But, without Su Dingchuan and Su Chinka's ruthlessness, she would not have betrayed the Su family so decisively. Everything could only be said to be fate. It was not a bad thing for her to meet Su Jiuzhou, but a great blessing. Of course, if she knew that what Su Li said to her was mostly true, and even the previous contradiction was deliberately caused by Su Li, she would not think like this. Unfortunately, only Su Mu and Su Yang knew this, and they were still acting cautiously in the main branch of the Su family, so they had no chance to sit down and chat with Su Dian. Su Dian put away the jade slip and suddenly thought of something. She asked awkwardly, "Then I will call you senior in the future." Su Jiuzhou's real strength was partly exposed, so the relationship between her and her previous master and apprentice naturally became a joke. It was not so easy for her to find a suitable title. Su Li smiled slightly when she heard that. She glanced at Ling Qinglan, who frowned and didn't speak, and said, "From now on, call me Mr." "That's great, Mr." Su Dian felt that this title was very appropriate. It was like a modest gentleman who was well-read, which made people feel comfortable. Ling Qinglan and Yin Shui were shocked at the same time when they heard this title. After 1,000 years, Ling Qinglan had a feeling of tears when he heard this title again. But everything in front of him had changed. Even her successor could rival a practitioner in Huashan realm. Time flies so fast, Ling Qinglan sighed in his heart. "Su Dian, I have some private matters with your mother and fellow practitioner Ling." Su Dian reacted before Su Li finished her words and left with Su Xianyun and Yin Shui. She was not worried about her mother's safety. If Su Jiuzhou wanted to kill someone, none of them could stop her. After Su Dian and the other two left Desa City, Su Li turned her eyes to the two, and finally fixed her eyes on Ling Qinglan. "I want to know everything." Chapter 460. All? Ling Qinglan murmured and looked straight at Su Li, "You are her successor. You have the qualification. As long as I know it, I will tell you everything. Su Li didn't expose Ling Qinglan's misunderstanding, even now. So far, except for Immortal Tea Plant and Su Yuanhai, only 3 people knew her real identity. Hua Yan didn't need to be mentioned. As for Dongfang Wuxue and Yan Zai, they had been tested by her and were completely under her control. She also had to be cautious about Ling Qinglan and Yin Shui. It was not a bad thing to be misunderstood as her successor. It seemed to be a long process, but in fact, it was just a moment in Su Li's mind. She glanced at the cloudless sky and took back her gaze. She said, "Who on earth planned to force my master to enter the reincarnation mirror?" Ling Qinglan's pupils shrank slightly, but he was not surprised by Su Li's question. He said in a deep voice, "After I came out from there, I never stopped investigating. But I only found that it was related to a holy sect, and I didn't even get the name." A holy sect. Su Li narrowed her eyes. There are too many holy sects in Qingshui Circle. I understand. But no matter which sect it is not simple as long as it is called a holy sect. Ling Qinglan sighed slightly. Su Jouzhou in front of him was very similar to Su Li in every word and deed. He attributed it to the influence of inheritance, but he always unconsciously regarded her as Su Li. Subconsciously, he showed the respect of subordinates. After I left the Yin family, I went to many big regions to spy on the real situation. There was at least one practitioner in nature's test behind each holy sect. It was too difficult to investigate what happened in those years. After Ling Qinglan finished, Su Li pondered for a moment and continued, "You were injured at that time?" Ling Qinglan was slightly stunned. He touched the cold crystal on his chest and nodded. After Mo came out, his strength soared. He reached the level of nature's test half in just 200 years. Yin Shui seemed to calm down and added in a low voice, "The family had high hopes for him, but he stopped practicing at this time and went to confront the holy sections. He was mistaken as a soul snatcher." Soul snatcher? It was the first time for Su Li to hear this word, and there was an inquiry in her eyes. Yin Shui seemed to have been left with a considerable degree of fear by Su Li because of the encounter in the reincarnation mirror. Seeing Su Li's gaze, Yin Shui couldn't help but tremble slightly. She didn't dare to conceal anything and said, "After the reincarnation mirror was broken, many people seemed to be completely changed when they returned to Qingshui Circle. Although the soul and memory of the original body returned after the life ring returned, the heart belonging to the original family force could never come back." "Your master." Yin Shui's voice paused, and there was a hint of sincerity in her helplessness. "You're really charming." When Ling Qinglan heard this, the memory flashed in his eyes. He smiled faintly and said, "Your temperament changed greatly?" "I don't think so. I just got better." Yin Shui nodded helplessly. She didn't dislike her brother's change. On the contrary, he was overjoyed. Emo, who grew up in the Yin family and was raised as an executioner, would never take the initiative to talk to her. He was extremely heartless. After hundreds of years in the reincarnation mirror, Yin Shui was very grateful that her brother could become a human again. Apart from the fear of Su Li, Yin Shui was very grateful. However, for the Yin family, the original pure Emo became impure, which was a great bad thing. Su Li tilted her head and thought for a moment. She had figured out a lot of things. Leaving the reincarnation mirror alive and leaving dead were two completely different things. The former took away all the emotions and memories, integrated into the soul and occupied a dominant position. The latter completely forgot what happened in the reincarnation mirror, leaving only the practice methods and instincts that she learned in it. Ling Qinglan and Yin Shui should be the former, but Su Li didn't dare to guarantee it. She continued to speak in the tone of her successor, "It seems that you and I are almost the same. I found that there is a practitioner of Huashan realm named Su Huanli in the Su family, who has a deep relationship with her." Ling Qinglan nodded in agreement. "So, you lurked in the Su family and wanted to find out?" "Yes." Su Li smiled and looked at Ling Qinglan softly, "It's the best if you two can join me." Ling Qinglan was moved by Su Li's invitation. He felt guilty. Now he could meet Su Li's successor, so it was best to investigate together. However, he soon showed hesitation on his face. We can't stay here. Yin Shui looked regretful. Su Jojo, we all understand your wish. But, we will only bring you trouble if we stay here. Su Li raised her eyebrows. Because of the Yin family? Yes, but not entirely. Yin Shui hesitated for a moment and seemed to be considering whether to tell the whole story. But when she saw Ling Qinglan's hand always inadvertently covering his chest, she sighed and told him about the past. Our situation was not good. After Mo left the Yin family, I naturally followed him. Later, when I stayed in this region. At that time, Mo's cultivation was very close to passing nature's test, and the Su family flattered him very much. Mo got the news from the old ancestor of the Su family and wanted to leave to investigate in the ghost region. I was worried and insisted on going with him. My husband also went with me. Later, Mo was ambushed and was seriously injured. He tried his best to save me, but my husband. Speaking of this, tears appeared in Yin Shui's eyes and she choked with sobs. My husband is excellent, but it's a pity that I couldn't give him an heir. Then Su Daiyin, Su Li spoke at the right time. Yin Shui took a deep breath and restrained her emotions. She was an adopted daughter before I entered the reincarnation mirror. It was inconvenient for her to move, so I fostered her in the Su family. Later, she showed her cultivation talent and was put in an important position. After Mo and I escaped back, Mo changed his name to Ling Guang. The outside world thought that Mo died in the ghost region, so there was not much doubt. Su Li was silent. She still had doubts in her heart. Whether it was Yan Zai or Dongfang Wuxue, she could smell a trace of familiar pneuma from them. But the two in front of her didn't. She couldn't ask this question. She couldn't explain where the trace of familiarity came from. If she said it, the claim that she was the successor would be self-defeating. After a long while, she raised her head, stared at Ling Qinglan's eyes, and asked, "Which holy sect hurt you?" Ling Qinglan was stunned. The face in his memory overlapped with the girl in front of him again, and an absurd idea came to his mind. It was impossible. Ling Qinglan's voice was very low, as if he was suppressing something. Ghost region, Han sect. When Yin Shui heard these two words, her face turned pale, and she smiled bitterly. Han sect collected a lot of fragments of the reincarnation mirror, so Mo had an idea. But the two grand elders of Han sect both had the cultivation of nature's test. It was very good that we could escape alive. When Su Li heard the fragments of the reincarnation mirror, her eyes flashed, and she looked at Ling Qinglan with scorching eyes. Your injury must be left by Han sect, which is somewhat similar to your injury in the reincarnation mirror. Ling Qinglan slightly pursed his lips. Are there many memories about me in the inheritance you got? Su Li smiled and didn't answer his words. She continued, Han sect is also a holy sect. Even if they are afraid of your revenge, they should have forgotten you since you faked your death for so long. Ling Qinglan's eyes changed slightly, and his originally relaxed body gradually tightened. What do you want to say? What I want to say should be very clear to you. Su Li sighed, but Yin Shui looked at them blankly, and didn't understand why the atmosphere suddenly became tense. You are very smart, but I still can't fully believe you. Ling Qinglan's face became cold, and his hanging hands shook slightly. Two spiritual daggers reappeared. Yin Shui suddenly panicked. Su Li didn't seem to see his movements. She slightly lowered her eyes and whispered, "Don't kill yourself. You have the fragments of the reincarnation mirror, so let's make a deal." Ling Qinglan's movements paused. What deal? If he didn't have to, he naturally didn't want to do it. He had already seen Su Jojo's strength. In his current physical condition, he might not break the net even if he died. What's more, Yin Shui was still by his side. He already owed his sister too much. Su Li pointed to Ling Qinglan's chest and said, "As long as this ice crystal disappears, Han sect can't sense you, right?" Yes, but the ice poison of Han's sect is not as simple as you think. Ling Qinglan understood what she wanted to do. This ice poison not only has the effect of tracking, but also suppresses my strength. Its structure is extremely complicated. Even if you inherit your master's medical realm, you may not. Before he finished his words, Su Li suddenly reached out and pointed like lightning. A faint ray of lightning flashed. Then Ling Qinglan was shocked to see that the ice crystal, which had been entangled with him for nearly 1,000 years, shattered into powder with a bang. It disappeared. Yin Shui was surprised and happy. She couldn't help but touch Ling Qinglan's chest. After touching the hole, she couldn't stop her tears. Ling Qinglan's whole body was steaming. Without the suppression of the ice crystal, his pneuma quickly recovered. In the blink of an eye, his injury was 80% healed, and the blood scabs fell off one after another. How did you do it? He looked at Su Jojo sitting opposite with a trace of disbelief in his eyes. What was that ray of lightning? Although he saw it, he couldn't see its essence. In addition to the inheritance of Su Li, this woman had other adventures. A person of great luck. This word came to Ling Qinglan's mind, and his body shook slightly. A new daughter of luck. Su Li shrugged and didn't answer. Although the divine thunder of earth was only a part of the thunder of tranquility, it also contained a trace of the thunder of tranquility to eliminate demons. No matter how complicated the structure of the ice poison of the ghost region was, its essence was just a crystal of ghost energy. A ray of thunder of tranquility was enough to cure it. The younger generation will surpass the older. Ling Qinglan looked at Su Li and sighed. He took out the bag with the fragments from the universe ring. Su Li took it and counted it, and smiled. At this moment, Chapter 461. Rumble. A thunder suddenly sounded. The clear sky was covered with dark clouds in the blink of an eye. People walking on the street were scared and hurried back home. How could it rain in such a bad weather? Mom, go and collect the clothes. The mortals were busy. Ling Qinglan looked up at the gloomy sky and felt a little unusual. I should go. Su Li was calm, as if she didn't see the sky outside. Her voice pulled Ling Qinglan back from his thoughts. I can rest assured that you are behind the second branch of the Su family, right? Ling Qinglan hesitated for a moment and nodded gently. 10 years. Su Li tapped the table with her knuckles, got up, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Only a sentence echoed in the nothingness. Within 10 years, no matter what I find, I will go to Yushu's sect to seek justice. I think you should know what to prepare. Ling Qinglan frowned slightly. 10 years was too short for a cultivator. What could he prepare? M.O. Yin Shui's voice changed a little. Although Ling Qinglan said that he didn't use the name E.M.O., she still habitually called him M.O. What? Ling Qinglan turned his head and saw Yin Shui pointing to the clear sky outside. She said in a trembling voice, the dark clouds are gone. Ling Qinglan's expression changed instantly. In the desolate mountains and rivers, Su Li looked solemn. She ran the all-spirits tactics to restrain her pneuma and flew with all her strength. In the blink of an eye, she left the afterimage far behind. She didn't dare to use the slightest power of Jindan realm. She only ran with her physical body, but she still felt uneasy. There was a faint roar in the sky. Su Li looked up and could vaguely see a purple arc running in the clouds. She was targeted. A cold light flashed in her eyes. The mortals in the secular city had a strong pneuma, which could slightly cover her unique pneuma. She just helped Ling Qinglan to solve the ice poison, but nature's punishment immediately found it. I have to save the means I prepared for Zisha. All kinds of thoughts flashed through her mind. She rushed to the black stone forest without caring about being exposed. One thunder and one person, one chasing and the other fleeing, made a lot of noise and soon attracted the attention of many practitioners. After Su Li ran into the black stone forest, she sensed at least a dozen pneumas following her. Seeing the camp of the sixth branch of the Su family from afar, Su Li's eyes flashed. She suddenly stopped and a trace of soul power flowed on the surface. Then she calmly walked to the mine of the camp. The dozen or so cultivators following behind were stunned when they saw their target suddenly disappear. Then, they sped up and approached the camp of the Su family's sixth branch. In the main tent, Su Jinnan was worried about how to fool the demon crystals. Suddenly, he sensed that a large number of practitioners were approaching. His face changed slightly and he led people to meet them. However, he could not sense that Su Li passed by him and entered the blocked mine. She walks easily to the dead-end road where the three forks appeared last time. She takes out the core of the big tactical matrix transformed by purple demon crystal and prints it gently. The familiar intersection appears again, but this time there are not three roads, but only one. Seeing the faint purple light on the wall, Su Li narrowed her eyes and walked along the passage to the deepest cold pool. Senior. Before she finished her words, all the snakes attached to the cave fell into the pool like dumplings. The dense twisting snake tails made people's scalp numb. Su Li's expression remained unchanged. She tried to make her voice softer. Senior, many snakes fell on the ground with their teeth and claws bared, but none of them dared to approach Su Li. Since the last time Su Li spoke wildly here, they seemed to have a kind of emotion called fear for Su Li. They were too cowardly. Splash. The water of the ice-blue cold pool tumbled violently. Zi Sha's breathtakingly beautiful face appeared again. But this time, there was no smile on her face, only anger. You are really bold to hide from nature's punishment and come to my place. Su Li smiled slightly. At least when I am still useful, your anger is not enough to overcome your reason and let you kill me. This is the best refuge. Hearing this, Zi Sha's vertical snake eyes were very cold. It seems that I have to find someone else to help me. There is not enough time. Su Li shook her head and sighed. She still looked relaxed. Nature's punishment is outside now. No matter who takes action, there is a possibility of exposure. It is better to let those people outside take the blame and let me have a look. If I have enough experience, I may be able to help you buy more time. Zi Sha's angry face slightly stagnated, and she became silent. Su Li was suspected of quibbling, but what she said was not unreasonable. You should be glad. Although I appreciate you very much, I don't like disobedient children. If there is not enough time, I will definitely consider changing someone else. Zi Sha's expression eased. She gently waved her slender arm in the nothingness, and the scene of the outside world was reflected in the nothingness. Nature's punishment is not as simple as you think. These weaklings can't hold on for a quarter of an hour. Su Li stared at the scene in the nothingness seriously. Her physique determined that she was destined to deal with nature's punishment all her life. It was naturally good to have the opportunity to observe nature's punishment. There is one more entrance to the alien region in the Jojo region. The awareness of natural law is the weakest, and it can't see through the demon cave that I built by myself. You don't have to worry about being discovered here. Zi Sha pointed at the practitioners who were looking up in the image. These people are unlucky. If nature's punishment can't find the target, it will be angry. Before Zi Sha finished her words, a purple lightning as thick as a finger struck down from the sky, and the practitioners who were looking up were instantly smashed into charcoal. Su Li's eyes were fixed, and her eyes flashed with uncertainty. But she hit it well, and Zi Sha didn't see it. The divinity in the lightning seems to be somewhat similar to the divine thunder of earth. Su Li wanted to ask Black Lotus, but Zi Sha was beside her, so Black Lotus didn't dare to show up. This matter could only wait until it was safe. When Su Li was thinking, several more thunderbolts struck down from the sky, and the disciples of the Su family's camp had already scattered. Su Jinnan had no time to care about other things at this moment, and he ran away desperately. More than a dozen practitioners who chased after Su Li also scattered like birds and beasts after 4 or 5 of them died unluckily. Nature's punishment didn't mean to stop, and it continued to bombard the Su family's camp. For a moment, the earth and stones collapsed, and even the surrounding black fog was split a lot, and the visibility was improved a lot. Boom! 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 Earth-shattering thunders resounded in his ears. Su Jinan gritted his teeth and fled, but his heart was full of despair. Since the tea party for immortals, his luck seemed to have been eaten by something, and it went downhill rapidly. It showed that the disappearance of the demon crystal was discovered by the old ancestor. Before he could think of a way, nature's punishment inexplicably split the mountain and razed the whole camp to the ground. Nature's punishment was a legendary existence. As long as there was nature's punishment, it was either a practitioner in nature's punishment or an extremely powerful treasure that came into being. There was no practitioner in nature's punishment in the Jojo region. Su Jinan could guarantee that within a day, his mine would be overcrowded. If he didn't escape, he would definitely be in the hands of those mighty figures, and could neither live nor die. I don't know anything. What's wrong with the mine? Su Jinan fled in grief and indignation, and his tears were about to fall down. He couldn't stay in the Jojo region any longer, and he had to leave immediately. After half a day, the thunders resounding through the black stone forest finally stopped. After leaving a bottomless pit in the camp of the sixth branch, the dark clouds dispersed, and the sky became clear again, as if nothing had happened. Suli breathed a sigh of relief, but the seriousness in her eyes didn't lessen. Even if she tried her best to figure out the power of nature's punishment, it was not as shocking as seeing it with her own eyes. Her preparation was far from enough. Fortunately, she still had time after this accident. You can go now. Xia waved her hand to take back the image. The cave shook slightly, and a passage was extended. Think about it carefully. Next time, you will be the one standing under nature's punishment. Suli nodded silently, and walked away. She didn't know how long she had walked in the dark cave. When Suli came out of the cave, she was already outside the black stone forest. Looking at the flowing light in the sky constantly flying to the black stone forest, Suli restrained her pneuma, and revealed an ugly smile. For the sake of her great undertaking of metamorphosis, this great demon was really taking great care of her. The news of nature's punishment in the black stone forest quickly spread throughout the Jojo region. On the second day after Suli left, the entire black stone forest was bustling. But all this had nothing to do with Suli. At this moment, she was in the adytum in the back mountain of Ni sect, looking at the two practitioners of Huashan realm who were sealed on the ground, with some helplessness in her eyes. If I can't control their souls, can't I reach the perfect nature soul? Of course. Black Lotus rushed out and said angrily, even if these two practitioners of Huashan realm were forcibly promoted with the help of their families, their souls must have been transformed and reached the nature soul realm. If you want to control them, there are two ways. First, your soul must break through the nature soul realm and reach the void soul realm in nature's test. Speaking of this, Black Lotus rolled his eyes. You are in Jindan realm, but your soul has reached the perfect nature soul realm. Even I have never seen such a freak like you. It is unrealistic to say that you can break through the void soul realm. As for the second way, you have to make a breakthrough in the soul tactics. But you only got the first level of the soul tactics, and it seems impossible to get the second level. You don't have it here? Suli suddenly asked. Black Lotus's eyes widened and he almost choked. That's the treasure of the Moongazer school. I want to learn from it, but the Moongazer school suppresses the spirit too much. I can't steal it even if I want to. I see. Suli suddenly understood and looked at Black Lotus meaningfully. Did you get rich by stealing practice methods in ancient times? Black Lotus was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What do you mean by stealing? Could a cultivator's business be called stealing? I took it above board. Looking at Black Lotus's sophistry, Suli suddenly had a further understanding of his shamelessness. She twisted the Black Lotus ring, and her eyes suddenly flashed. Maybe, there is a third way. Chapter 462. The third way. Black Lotus's eyes widened. He could only think of two ways. Could Su Li think of other solutions? Su Li ignored Black Lotus's question. She touched the universe ring with her fingertips and took out a white porcelain bottle. Black Lotus's expression changed slightly when he saw it. Illusion arising powder. But how can it be enough? Su Yuanhai only had half of the illusion arising powder, which was not enough for one person, not to mention there were two on the ground. Su Li shook her head with her eyes shining. What do you think if I combine the illusion arising powder with the soul tactics? Black Lotus was dumbfounded. He simulated the feasibility of Su Li's method in his mind. After a while, he said in surprise, the illusion arising powder can disperse a lot of memories and weaken their souls. Maybe it works. Let's have a try. Su Li never liked to procrastinate. She unplugged the bottle stopper and fed them half of the illusion arising powder respectively. Then she used the soul tactics to make memories. 4 hours later, Su Li's face was slightly pale, but she wore a smile. Su Dingchuan and Su Qinke were cautious. They stood in front of Su Li like loyal servants and saluted at the same time. Greetings, Master. Black Lotus looked at them with joy. You really made it. You are a genius. Su Dingchuan and Su Qinke were both surprised to see Black Lotus. But their absolute loyalty to Su Li in their memory restrained their curiosity and kept them respectful and silent. Su Li pondered for a moment and ordered them, you two go back to the main branch of the Su family. Before Su Dingchuan goes back, find a suitable reason to kill Su Dingxian in the dungeon of the second branch and make it clear that he supports Su Daiyin. Su Dingchuan heard it and said respectfully, Su Dingxian deserves to die for offending Master. Yes, Master. Su Li's eyes flickered slightly. When she was compiling the memory for Su Dingxian, she found that Su Dingchuan and Su Dingxian were biological brothers. Su Dingchuan always doted on his younger brother. So, what he said now was sincere. Even if I encountered the illusory memory powder, I would still be in danger. For the time being, Su Li didn't have a good way to deal with such a strange medicine as the illusion arising powder. She could only suppress her thoughts for the time being and continue to instruct Su Qinke, after you go back to the head branch, take care of Su Yang and Su Mu secretly, but don't expose the relationship between you and me. In addition, pay attention to the actions of your Su family at all times and report to me secretly. Understand? I understand. Su Qinke bowed submissively. Everything about Su Li's past in his memory had been washed away, leaving only absolute loyalty to Su Li. In that case, the two of you can go back. Remember to hide yourself and don't let anyone see you. Hearing this, Su Qinke and Su Li bowed again, and then quickly turned around and left the adytum. With their cultivation at the early stage of Huashan realm, it was easy for them to return to the Su family without being noticed. Su Li squinted her eyes, but there was not much joy in her eyes after she laid 2 more traps. There was an absolute problem in front of him that needed to be resolved urgently. Black Lotus, when can we go to the place you mentioned? Su Li suddenly said, which startled Black Lotus. Then he looked embarrassed, your current strength is still too low. Su Li raised her eyebrows and said coldly, do you think I can survive nature's punishment in 5 months? Black Lotus's face darkened, impossible. That is nature's punishment. You can't survive even the weakest consciousness. Then what are you hesitating for? Su Li frowned, I don't believe that there is no secret method to deal with nature's punishment in the territory of your ghost clan. Even if I can only get 1 or 2 moves, it will increase the odds of winning. Then, what if I can't come back? Black Lotus's voice was a little trembling. Su Li grinned, if I really can't come back, I just die a few months earlier. What's the difference? After I die, I don't care about the flood. She had no choice at all. The coercion of the mighty demon was like a sharp sword hanging over her head, which could fall at any time. The appearance of the great demon had disrupted her plan, but at the same time, it had increased her chances of success. Of course, all this was based on the condition that she could successfully escape nature's punishment. Black Lotus was sad and murmured, why did I follow you, a lunatic? In the reincarnation mirror, you are obviously a wise man who devises strategies. Why do you do things according to your whims when you come to Qingshui Circle? That's different. Su Li shook her head and sighed. The forces of the two worlds were not at the same level at all. If she played tricks in Qingshui Circle, she would have died long ago. Anyway, let's take a gamble. Get ready. 10 days later, we will go in. A sharp light flashed in Su Li's eyes. She pushed the door and called Hua Yan, Yan Zai, and others. She also released Dongfang Wuxue, who was still repracticing. I will leave for a few months. During this period, you guys will pay attention to the sect and the Su family. I have subdued 2 practitioners in Huashan realm of the Su family. You should be well informed. If there is anything urgent, don't wait for me. Hua Yan can make the decision. Hearing Su Li's words, Hua Yan nodded, and Yan Zai and Dongfang Wuxue agreed at the same time. It was just a few months. No one thought that Su Li would be in danger. In their hearts, Mr. had always been mysterious and unfathomable. His strength was unfathomable. What could possibly stop Mr.? Only Hua Yan felt that Su Li was a little strange today. But when she thought that Su Li had never lied to her, she felt at ease. After giving orders to the 3, Su Li went to accompany Jining for half a day. Lvu had been with Su Li for the longest time, but it was only a few years. No matter how much his strength improved, it was limited. Su Li asked him to protect Jining and practice peacefully. After a period of quiet practice, his strength had made great progress. Although he had not broken through Yuanying realm, he was not far from it. Night fell. After Jining fell asleep, Su Li rushed to the 7th branch of the Su family overnight. She talked with Su Yuanhai and Su Yusheng all night. In the morning, she appeared in the 2nd branch of the Su family and called Su Daiyin and others for a secret talk. At noon, Su Li breathed a sigh of relief. Facing the huge sun, she squinted her eyes. She had a lot of power in her hands. She could do some things without doing it herself, such as subduing the 25 sects that ranked the bottom. In the ordinary 25 sects, there will not be more than 2 practitioners of Huashan realm in one sect. Ling Qinglan alone is enough. With this thought flashing in her mind, Su Li smiled slightly and left. As soon as her pneuma went away, Ling Qinglan opened his eyes. The pneuma in his body boiled for a moment and suddenly exploded. The horrible pneuma instantly spread all over his body. Mo. Your cultivation. Yin Shui sat in a wheelchair and was surprised. Ling Qinglan nodded gently and said simply, I have recovered a little. I have reached the Huashan realm. It is not a problem for me to deal with practitioners in the half-step of nature's test. If I want, I can at least conquer half of the 25 sects when Su Jiuzhou is away. As he said, he looked at the direction where Su Li left, but it is not enough to take our physical bodies. Yin Shui bit her lip and nodded gently. Ling Qinglan's cultivation was not in the half-step of nature's test as she said before, but the real nature's test. She looked in the direction of Ling Qinglan with a complicated expression in her eyes. They had concealed a lot of things from Su Li before. For example, they did not mention the so-called physical body. Do you really believe that she is the successor of Su Li? I don't know. Except for the 2 old monsters, no one knew what happened to Su Li at that time. But the scene intercepted by the Yin family should be true. Hearing this, Yin Shui immediately thought of the scene where the spirit of the reincarnation mirror swallowed Su Li in the world of ice and snow. In that dangerous situation, did Su Li really have time to leave the inheritance? Ling Qinglan sighed softly, no matter what Su Jiuzhou's purpose is, she detoxified my cold poison, so I will help her. At least what she is doing now seems to be revenge for Su Li. Speaking of this, his eyes were full of coldness. Since my cultivation has not recovered, I can't calculate the total score. Then I will collect some interest first. Yin Shui's heart trembled slightly. She clenched the armrest and was silent for a while. Then she plucked up her courage and gritted her teeth. How can we fight alone? Why don't we find Hierarch? Shut up. Ling Qinglan's face suddenly changed, and his tone became gloomy. He whispered, he is not Hierarch. He doesn't deserve it. When the reincarnation mirror was broken, everyone disappeared without a trace. He searched for many years, but only one person's whereabouts was always clear, and even fixed there. Xingtian Shrine. Evil Emperor. But 500 years ago, he went to Xingtian Shrine to ask for an audience, but he was kicked out before he even entered the gate. He still remembered the indifferent and heartless face under the gate of Xingtian Shrine. If you come again, don't blame me for killing you regardless of the old friendship. Taking a deep breath, Ling Qinglan barely calmed down his boiling anger, and his tone calmed down. I know what I'm doing. He didn't tell anyone about his experience in Xingtian Shrine, including Yin Shui. At this moment, Su Li came to the ghost region through the transmission matrix alone. This place used to be the core area of the ghost clan, but now it has become a place where ghost practitioners run amok. It's similar to the hometown of LVU. It's really degrading, except for the architectural style. The cities, villages, and sects in the ghost region were similar to those in the Jojo region. It was not as ghostly as Su Li imagined. However, the level of cultivation here was not comparable to that in Jojo region. Cultivators in Zhuji realm were as lowly as nonentities, far less respected than those in Jojo region. Practitioners in Jindan realm were also common, at most worth a second glance. Only practitioners in Yuanying realm were highly respected and were the backbone of the entire ghost region. The place you mentioned is here. Su Li walked slowly to the street of a cultivation city. Looking at the bustling market, she was suspicious. This place was not as dangerous as Black Lotus said. Did she go the wrong way? Little Su Li, how can you doubt my senses? Seeing the suspicion in Su Li's eyes, Black Lotus was furious. I have worked so hard to guide you all the way, but in the end, I have to be doubted by you. It's really annoying. Black Lotus vented his anger for a moment, and his eyes met Su Li's cold eyes. Suddenly, he shivered, and his voice subconsciously weakened. It's just 300 meters ahead. The sense mark is very clear. There is absolutely no mistake. Chapter 463. Su Li raised her eyebrows and moved forward as he said. Black Lotus sighed and felt sorry for himself. Black Lotus, oh Black Lotus, why are you so cowardly? You've lost all the face of the ancient supreme treasure. After 100 meters, Su Li looked at the courtyard wall in front of her, and then looked up at the plaque of Duan Mansion, hanging in the center of the courtyard wall. She couldn't help but fall into meditation. The entrance to the ancestral land of the ghost clan is now in a private mansion. You ghost practitioners of the human clan are really ignorant. Black Lotus was surprised and said, but the royal family of the ghost clan was indeed surnamed Duan, and this place is also called Duan Mansion. It's really a coincidence. The ghost clan had been extinct. Even if there were orphans in the past, they were all killed by the human clan. This Duan Mansion dared to mix among the ghost practitioners of the human clan, so it couldn't be a member of the ghost clan. He didn't smell the breath of the ghost clan, so he said it was a coincidence. Su Li didn't say anything. She walked to the front of the Duan Mansion and saw the notice for seeking medical help posted in front of the door. She immediately smiled. She was worried that there was no suitable reason to sneak in. It was really a good opportunity. Opening the ancestral land of the ghost clan would certainly make a big noise. Even if Black Lotus helped to suppress the scope, at least the practitioners in this city could definitely sense it. She and Black Lotus both wanted to enter the ancestral land, so it was a good way to let the people of the Duan family guard the entrance. Hey, little Su Li, it's just a big region. Why do you become so principled? It's not like you. In my opinion, you can directly control the old ancestor of the Duan family and let him guard the entrance. There is no reason. Black Lotus shook his head and said. He was used to Su Li's cruelty and mercilessness. So, he was not used to seeing Su Li act like this. Su Li glanced at him and tore down the notice for seeking medical help. There were enemies everywhere in the Jojo region. The Ghost Clan was not, even if she had remembered the name of Han sect. The two disciples guarding in front of the Duan mansion changed their faces slightly when they saw Su Li tear down the notice. One of them went in to report, and soon a large group of people came out. The leading middle-aged man wore a dark brown robe. He had a thin face and an extraordinary temperament. When he saw that Su Li was so young and her bone age was less than 200 years, he frowned slightly. However, he didn't reveal his intention and still greeted him with a sincere face. I'm Duan Rong. Young friend, you have taken down the proclamation of our Duan's mansion. Are you a medical expert? Su Li's eyes were indifferent. She didn't look at other members of the Duan family. She just stared at Duan Rong and said, "Where is the patient?" Seeing that she was so cold and arrogant, Duan Rong felt more confident. He quickly made a gesture and stepped aside, saying, "The patient is my daughter. Doctor, come with me." Su Li nodded. When she was about to step into the gate of the Duan family, she heard a sharp voice inside the door. "Wait." Su Li narrowed her eyes and stopped. She saw a gorgeous woman in luxurious clothes coming out of the house. Her beautiful face was mean and her lips were extremely thin. It was obvious that she was not to be trifled with. Seeing Su Li's young and even somewhat childish face, the woman couldn't help but snort, "Eldest brother, you are really desperate. This silly little girl is less than 200 years old. At first glance, you know that she is an ignorant and incompetent person who comes to swindle food and drink. You actually put aside your family affairs to welcome her in person. How silly you are." The woman's words were reasonable. Duan Rong was stunned. Before he hesitated, he saw that Su Li flashed and disappeared. So fast. He was shocked. When he looked up, he saw that Su Li had already pinched the gorgeous woman's neck. Su Li's tone was as calm as ever. "I don't need others to tell me what to do. If it weren't for the thing I want in your Duan family, do you think you can still stand here and talk to me alive?" Ahem, the gorgeous woman desperately grasped Su Li's hand and wanted to break it off. But Su Li's seemingly slender hand pinched her neck like an iron hoop and didn't move at all. "My cultivation of Jindan realm has been suppressed. How is it possible? Let me go. My Duan family is the first family in Nanli City. You will die if you offend me." The gorgeous woman was furious and struggled crazily. Su Li's eyes were always cold, and she gradually tightened her grip. When the feeling of suffocation and death approached, the gorgeous woman suddenly came to her senses. Finally, fear appeared in her eyes. "Let me go. I dare not talk nonsense." Duan Rong woke up with a start. When he saw that his sister was about to be pinched to death by Su Li, he finally reacted. He rushed to Su Li and pleaded, "Fellow practitioner, please calm down. My sister has always been outspoken and brainless. When I get back, I will discipline and punish her properly." Su Li glanced at him and saw his sincere expression. She loosened her grip and let the gorgeous woman collapse to the ground. "Your cultivation is good, but your temperament is so gentle. It is rare." As Su Li said, she clapped her hands and stepped over the gorgeous woman. "I won't argue with a retard. Take me to see your daughter." Duan Rong was overjoyed and hurriedly led the way. Su Li's cultivation made him more confident in her ability to treat his daughter. Ahem, the gorgeous woman coughed violently for a long time. When the blood on her face faded, her breath calmed down. She glanced at the direction where Su Li left with resentment, got up and ran in the other direction of the Duan mansion. At this moment, Su Li came to an exquisitely decorated room under the guidance of Duan Rong. The pink gauze curtain fluttered in the wind. Su Li glanced over the maids in the room and fell on the bed in the inner room. A girl who looked no more than 12 or 13 years old was sleeping quietly. A dignified woman with a sad face sat on the edge of the bed. Her cultivation was not weak, which was at the late stage of Yuanying realm. "Madam, I brought the doctor." Duan Rong walked in. Su Li felt strange. The cultivation of the head of the Duan family was just at the early stage of Yuanying realm. How could his wife's cultivation be higher than his? "Doctor?" the dignified woman said in surprise. When she saw Su Li, a trace of suspicion flashed through her eyes. "That's right. Don't underestimate Dr. Su just because she looks young." She was able to restrain Yurong with just one hand. Hearing her husband's words, the dignified woman looked a little relaxed. It was common sense that doctors did not have high martial arts. It was good enough for them to restrain a practitioner in Jindan realm. She hesitated for a moment and bowed to Su Li. "My daughter's injury is tricky. The doctors in Nanli City are at a loss. Please take care of her." "It doesn't matter. Let me have a look." Su Li waved her hand and glanced at Duan Rong, who looked normal. Then she walked to the bed and sat down. She gently put her hand on the girl's wrist. The condition of the girl's body immediately appeared in her mind. She learned from Qi Xianqing in the reincarnation mirror. Now her medical skills and poison skills combined with the memory in Qingshui circle had been upgraded to a higher level. The dignified woman saw that Su Li had no other unusual movements, and her tense mind was slightly relaxed. Although she was suspicious of Su Li's origin, she did not dare to disturb Su Li's treatment of her daughter. After a while, Su Li loosened her hand and opened her eyes to look at the dignified woman. She said in a flat voice, "Your daughter's foundation was affected by her carelessness in practice. Besides, your daughter's body is weak. It's really tricky." Although Duan Rong wanted to make every possible effort, when he heard Su Li's judgment at this moment, his slightly floating heart couldn't help but sink. The dignified woman looked at her daughter lying on the bed, and the love in her eyes almost overflowed. She grasped her heart tightly and asked nervously, "Your diagnosis and treatment speed is several times faster than other doctors. Your medical skills are extraordinary. Even you can't do anything?" "There is a way," Su Li said slowly. The eyes of Duan Rong and his wife instantly lit up at the same time. Su Li smiled slightly and turned to Duan Rong. "Next, I will use a secret method to treat your daughter's injury. It's inconvenient for male practitioners to watch. Head of the Duan family, can you leave?" "Madam can stay, but you can't disturb me." "Of course." Duan Rong was overjoyed when he heard this. He hurriedly stepped back and said while retreating, "Doctor, you can do whatever you want. I will guard outside the door. If you need anything else, just let me know at any time." "You are welcome, head of the family." After Duan Rong left the room, he immediately lost his sense of the inside of the room. He frowned slightly. Although Madam's cultivation was only in Jindan realm, if Dr. Su really had bad intentions, she could still resist for a moment to warn him. Thinking of this, Duan Rong immediately called the guards of the family to guard the whole room, for fear that someone would disturb the room. Su Li saw Duan Rong's action in her divine awareness and was not surprised. She raised her head and stared at the dignified woman with a pair of clear eyes. She couldn't help but wonder, why is Dr. Su staring at me? Su Li curled her lips slightly and said thoughtfully, "It seems that head of the Duan family doesn't know Madam's real cultivation, right?" As soon as Su Li said this, the dignified woman's expression suddenly changed. She immediately flashed in front of her daughter to protect her. Before she had time to move, Su Li showed a gentle smile. "Madam, don't be impatient. I am not your enemy. Otherwise, I only need to deliberately expose your cultivation in front of your husband, and it will be enough to make you lose your foothold in the Duan family." The dignified woman looked slightly gloomy. After a moment of silence, she asked, "Who are you?" Su Li still smiled and didn't answer the dignified woman's question. Instead, she said calmly, "As soon as I entered the room, I smelled a special smell. I thought it was the ghost energy of the ghost region, which made me a little uncomfortable. But when I approached Madam, I found that the smell came from you and the little girl on the bed. Madam is from the ghost clan, right? The dignified woman wanted to keep calm, but when she heard the last sentence of Suli, she couldn't help showing a look of horror on her face. She took a deep breath and reluctantly replied, Your Excellency, you are the first person to recognize my identity. Could it be that Your Excellency has seen other ghost clan? Obviously, this sentence meant that she acquiesced. Although you want to integrate into the human clan, it's a pity that your daughter inherited your bloodline. The ghost clan can't practice the martial arts of the human clan. Your daughter's injury must be caused by this, right? The dignified woman had lost her temper because of Su Li's words. She simply relaxed and sighed, What you said is right. Su Li chuckled softly. Black Lotus couldn't help but roll his eyes in the ring space. She was just a living girl of the ghost clan and a descendant with extremely impure bloodline. Why was she so excited? Chapter 464. I haven't seen other members of the ghost clan, but it's not difficult for me to recognize you. Su Li gave an ambiguous answer. Her fingers brushed the smooth forehead of the little girl on the bed, and she said in a subtle tone, It's very easy for me to cure your daughter, but I need you to promise me one thing. You really come here with a purpose. The dignified woman was nervous and hesitated for a moment. Seeing her daughter frowning from time to time, she gritted her teeth and said, Go ahead. Su Li saw her reaction, and a memory flashed in her mind. Her eyes softened a little, and she said in a flat tone, Madam, is there a dry well in the backyard of the Duan mansion? The dignified woman obviously didn't expect that Su Li would suddenly change the topic. She was stunned for a moment, and then she said in surprise, There is indeed a dry well in front of the ancestral temple. It seems to be very old, and everyone in the city knows it. Many people in the family have also gone there to investigate, but they didn't find anything. Are you? Madam, you guessed too much. Su Li smiled and narrowed her eyes with perfect radiance. The dignified woman heard the warning from her, and immediately shut up. After a while, she changed the topic and said, What do you want me to do? Su Li's eyes flashed, and she said, I want to enter the dry well. In addition to the cooperation of the Duan family, maybe I also need you to guard outside. When I enter the well, no one is allowed to enter. With your strength, it should be very easy. The dignified woman opened her mouth slightly and said in surprise, Only so many requirements. Su Li smiled and nodded without saying anything. The dignified woman suddenly relaxed and said confidently, With my secret help, my husband has completely controlled the Duan mansion. The dry well has been explored thoroughly by the Duan family. You won't encounter any resistance at all if you want to enter the dry well. As long as you can cure my daughter, during the time when you enter the well, I will stay by the well and guard it. It's a deal. It's a deal. An hour later, Su Li opened the door and saw Duan Rong, who was anxiously waiting at the door. Duan Rong was stunned when he saw Su Li appear. It was only an hour. Could it be, Sir, my daughter? Duan Rong couldn't help but use the honorific title. Su Li smiled and turned slightly, Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. Head of the Duan family, please go in and have a look. Duan Rong immediately got excited. Regardless of anything else, he stepped into the room quickly. Then a girl's clear voice sounded in the room like that of an oriole. Father. Do-er is awake. Madam. God bless you, this is great. Duan Rong choked with sobs as he spoke. Su Li stood at the door and didn't disturb them. She turned around and asked the butler of the Duan family to arrange a rest for her. A moment later, in the rear hall of the Duan family, Duan Rong and his wife led their daughter over. Duan Rong's eyes were still a little red. It could be seen that he loved his daughter very much. The youngest daughter of the Duan family was named Duan Yuan, and her nickname was Do-er. When she saw Suli, who was sitting in the armchair in the back hall and resting with her eyes closed, she rolled her big black eyes and walked quickly to Suli in accordance with her parents' instructions. Then she knelt down and said crisply, "Thank you for saving my life, Dr. Su. My parents said that if you hadn't helped me, my life would have been in danger. Do-er will remember this kindness in his heart and will never forget it." Suli opened her eyes and chuckled. She reached out and helped the little girl up. Then she looked up and said, "You are so polite. We just have a fair deal." "Dr. Su, you are wrong." Duan Rong waved his hand and said seriously, "This matter may not be worth mentioning for you, but it is a great favor for me and my wife. Madam has already told me your request. Although our Duan family has been rooted here for thousands of years, it is recorded in the family classics that the dry well doesn't belong to our Duan family. If you want to go in, our Duan family will never stop you. And we will send someone to meet you at the mouth of the well. If you need anything, just tell us. You are really forthright, head of the Duan family." Suli praised and shook her head with a smile. "I don't have any other request. I just hope that I won't bring you any trouble when I enter the dry well." "It's no trouble at all. Dr. Su, come with me. I will take you to the ancestral temple." Duan Rong was gentle, but he acted decisively. In less than half an hour, Suli had already stood in front of the gate of the ancestral temple of the Duan family and saw the dry well overgrown with weeds. According to the ancestors, the well has been abandoned for thousands of years, but the mouth of the well is still there. Maybe there is something extraordinary about it. Duan Rong explained, but he didn't think that Suli could find anything. According to Madam's description, Suli was a wandering doctor who liked strange things and wandered around. Her medical skills were extremely excellent. It was a great blessing for his daughter to meet such a highly skilled doctor to treat her. Hearing Duan Rong's words, Suli walked to the well and pulled away the thick yellow weeds. The edge of the mouth of the well came into view. There might have been meaningful patterns and words on it, but after the baptism of time, there was only a bare stone surface left. The entrance of the ancestral land is so damaged. It seems that no one has entered the ancestral land for thousands of years. Black Lotus screamed in the ring. Suli turned a deaf ear to him and didn't go down the well immediately. Instead, she turned to Duan Rong and said with a smile, "After all, this is the ancestral temple of your mansion. It is disrespectful for me to go down the well rashly. Can I go to the ancestral temple and burn a stick of incense to express my apology?" When Duan Rong heard this, the discomfort in his heart immediately disappeared. He said with a smile on his face, "Dr. Su, you are so considerate. In this way, I can explain it to my ancestors. I'll order someone to prepare it." Duan Rong turned and left. Only Suli and the dignified woman were left in the ancestral temple. The atmosphere was a little stagnant. Suli looked at the dignified woman who was a little nervous and asked with a smile, "May I know your name?" The dignified woman forced a smile, "My surname is also Duan. We are from the same family." Suli nodded and didn't continue to ask. She turned to look at the dense plaques in the ancestral temple. Hearing this, Black Lotus couldn't help thinking, this half-human half-ghost baby is also surnamed Duan. Is she the offspring of the royal family of Ghost Clan and Human Clan? Tut tut. After tens of thousands of years, her bloodline is so mixed that I can't recognize whether she is a descendant of the royal family. Well. Hearing Black Lotus's words, Su Li's eyes flashed. When she was about to continue to ask something, Duan Rong hurried in with an incense cup. She immediately gave up the idea. Even if Madame Duan was really a descendant of the royal family of Ghost Clan, it had nothing to do with her. It was better to avoid trouble. At least, she didn't want to get into trouble before she reached her goal. Under the gaze of Duan Rong and his wife, Su Li picked up 3 sticks of incense and lit them. Then she put them into the incense burner. Her movements were rigorous and smooth. After finishing this step, Su Li didn't think more. She walked to the dry well and opened the gap between the withered grass. Then she jumped into the well alone and soon disappeared from the sight of Duan Rong and his wife. Although there is a different world in this well, there is nothing special. I think Dr. Su will come back in a few days. Madam, let's go. We will come back in 2 days. Duan Rong said, but the dignified woman shook her head. I want to stay here and pray for Do-er. Duan Rong was slightly stunned, and then he was moved. Madam, you are so considerate. I will send someone to arrange it. After Su Li jumped into the well, she quickly landed. It was dark at the bottom of the well, and no light shone in. Although Su Li saw clearly with her divine awareness, she still took out a lamp to light and held it in her hand according to Black Lotus's request. The entrance to the ancestral land is deep here, but the entrance can't be sensed by divine awareness. It must be observed with the naked eye. Take a good look. I am a spiritual body, so I can at most point the way for you, but I don't have eyes to help you see. Su Li nodded gently and followed the wet passage slowly. She heard the sound of dripping water occasionally, but no other sound came. It seemed that she was isolated from the world. The entrance to the ancestral land. Is it like a gate? Su Li thought secretly. The spiritual stone lamp in her hand was lit with celestial stones, which illuminated the surrounding area of about 10 feet. It was the width of the passage, so she didn't have to stay in one place for too long. Several hours passed in the blink of an eye. Su Li came to the end of the passage, but she didn't find anything. Although the underground space was strangely large, as Duan Rong said, there was nothing special about it. Su Li took a breath slightly and looked very calm. There was a reason why the entrance to the ancestral land could be hidden for thousands of years. It was normal that she couldn't find it at the first try. Next, Su Li continued to search back and forth, not letting go of any clues. Several days passed in the blink of an eye. Su Li stopped and sat on a bare stone, with helplessness in her eyes. She still didn't find the entrance to the ancestral land. Black Lotus said that the pneuma in this area was so strong that she could definitely see something extraordinary with the naked eye. She searched every corner and confirmed it again and again, but still found nothing. Even so, Su Li didn't mean to give up. After a short rest, Su Li's exhausted mind recovered. She was about to get up and continue to search. Suddenly, she stopped and looked up. At this moment, her pupils suddenly shrank, and her back was numb. The passage was so high that it could accommodate 3 or 4 people, so Su Li only saw darkness when she looked up occasionally. But it was different this time. When she looked up, she vaguely saw the outline of a large cave with the naked eye. When she spread her divine awareness, she saw a wall. Black Lotus. Su Li whispered in her heart. Black Lotus immediately rushed out of the ring and looked up excitedly. After his spiritual body sensed the bare wall, he became more excited. What do you see? Su Li tiptoed and wanted to fly up, but was stopped by Black Lotus. She could only condense her soul into her eyes and try to see the outline clearly. The realm of perfect nature's soul was indeed extraordinary. After she condensed all the power of her soul into her eyes, the outline suddenly became clear in her field of vision. In an instant, Su Li's face changed, and she had goosebumps. That is, a coffin. Chapter 465. Coffin. Black Lotus's expression changed. The ghost clan won't use this thing to put it after death. Only the human clan will have it. Which ancient powerful figure of the human clan does it belong to? Did the coffin of the human clan block the entrance to the ancestral land of the ghost clan? Su Li's eyes flickered. She hesitated for a moment and tiptoed to the side of the coffin with the help of the wall. Su Li didn't use genuine energy during the whole process. In order to save the little girl of the Duan family, she had to use the isolation tactical matrix modified by the demon crystal. There were many more cracks on the tactical matrix plate. She had to save as much as possible. Black Lotus couldn't see the sarcophagus, so he could only watch Su Li's movements uneasily. Until Su Li stopped and there was no danger, he was slightly relieved. But he still didn't dare to relax his vigilance and continued to warn Suli, "Be careful." Suli nodded slightly. She grasped the wall with one hand and slowly approached the end of the coffin. After getting close, Suli saw the whole picture of the coffin. It was a sarcophagus, covered with dust and extremely dirty. The stone slab of the coffin was missing and inlaid upside down on the top of the stone wall. It was empty and there was no horrible existence as she imagined. No one. Suli calmed down a little and hooked one foot into the cave on the top of the stone wall. She pushed away the thick layer of cobwebs and carefully cleaned around the sarcophagus. Finally, she saw a line of small words at the bottom of the sarcophagus. Great Emperor of Hatred, 10,000. Foundation, Eternal Sleep. The handwriting was so worn that Suli could barely recognize some of it. She thought to herself, the Great Emperor with the word hatred in his name? Black Lotus, was there such a practitioner in the ancient human clan who was called the Great Emperor? Black Lotus rolled his eyes. There were many great emperors of the ancient human clan. Those who had the word hatred in their name couldn't be counted with two hands. This sarcophagus is seriously damaged. Who knows which great emperor it is? Black Lotus couldn't answer, so Suli didn't force him. She continued to clean the sarcophagus, trying to find other clues. Perhaps she used too much strength. When she cleaned the dust at the bottom of the sarcophagus suddenly cracked, and 2 finger holes were poked out. What? Black Lotus was dumbfounded when he heard the voice. He broke out in a cold sweat. Why did you break the coffin of a mighty figure? If this great emperor is still alive, we'll be in trouble. Suli was also stunned. She didn't feel how hard she used. How could the sarcophagus be broken? Although she had never seen the material of this stone coffin before, it was definitely not something that could be easily shaken with just her physical body. Furthermore, she had no intention of deliberately destroying it. Thinking of this, Suli suddenly thought of something, and her eyes suddenly changed. Without saying anything, she enlarged the hole along the finger hole. Black Lotus was almost frightened when he saw Suli's action. Suli, do you want to die? This is the coffin of your motherfucking human king. Motherfucking human king. Do you know what cultivation state that person is at? That is. Silence. Suli scolded coldly. Black Lotus was scolded and calmed down for a moment. He finally saw a clue and his eyes changed. This is. Kacha kacha, the sound of the stone shell cracking kept coming from her hands. Suli's movements were very fast. In less than 10 minutes, she expanded the hole to the extent that one person could enter. Sure enough. Suli straightened up and felt the ancient Numa escaping from the hole. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I felt strange just now. No matter how exaggerated the shape of the coffin is, the bottom must be flat. The bottom of this sarcophagus is attached to the top of the cave, showing an arc. It turns out that there is a gap. It's just that as time passed, a thin layer of stone covered it. The Numa of the ancestral land is more intense. Black Lotus transmitted the sound. Although he couldn't see the sarcophagus or the hole and could only hear the sound, it didn't prevent him from being excited. The real entrance must be inside. Suli answered softly. Without hesitation, she flashed into the stone cave, and the entire underground stone well was quiet. Time passed very fast. More than half a month had passed in the blink of an eye. In the ancestral temple of the Duan family, a dignified woman knelt on the futon and softly chanted Buddhist scriptures. But she glanced at the dry well from time to time with a little worry in her eyes. It had been so long, but the mysterious Dr. Su had not come out yet. She couldn't help but sigh softly. A few days ago, Duan Rong came to have a look in the well. She persuaded him for a long time to stop everyone. But Duan Rong looked at her in a strange way. Next time, if I continue to stop him, I will have to expose my cultivation. The dignified woman was worried and subconsciously exerted force. The string broke, and the Buddha beads fell on the ground. She hurriedly got up to pick them up, but she was more worried. This was not a good sign. Eldest brother. I've already said that Dr. Su is definitely up to no good. At this moment, in the front hall of the Duan family, all the 8 chairs were occupied. It was crowded and lively. Duan Rong sat in the seat of honor and looked at his sister who was standing in the center of the hall and talking nonsense. He looked gloomy and said in a calm tone, Duan Yi, do you really think that you can do whatever you want in this family with the will left by my mother? Duan Yi's face was slightly pale. She was in awe of her brother who made the family the first in Nanli City in just a few decades. But when she thought that she was almost strangled to death at the gate, she couldn't swallow it. Brother, I also know that has just recovered. It's not good to make trouble at this time. But the dry well was left by the ancestors of our Duan family. If the opportunity in it is taken by an outsider, will you be willing? Duan Rong's face became more and more gloomy and livid as he listened. If the hall were not full of representatives of the major families, he would have slapped the bitch who could not accomplish anything but spoiled everything. Head of the Duan family, anger is harmful to your health. Since an outsider can be allowed to explore the dry well in the ancestral temple of your Duan family, why do you stop us? That's right. Is our status lower than that of a practitioner in Jindan realm? We are here. Head of the Duan family won't let us go back empty-handed, right? I am invited by your sister. If you drive us away directly, it will be too unreasonable. The heads of the families in Nanli City spoke one after another as if they had discussed it. They were extremely united and joined hands to put pressure on Duan Rong. Duan Rong's face darkened, but he did not dare to refuse directly. The Duan family was the first family in Nanli City. But when these people united, even 2 Duan families couldn't resist them. Duan Yi finally came to her senses when she saw this, and panic appeared in her eyes. She led a wolf into the house. What did she do that was so stupid? Duan Rong took a deep breath and tried to keep his voice from trembling because of grievance and anger. Everyone, the invitation was made by Duan Yi herself. I didn't know it. As soon as he said that, the young cultivator sitting at the first seat on the right raised his eyebrows and said with a smile that was not a smile, this young miss of the Duan clan gathered all of us here because of your name, Patriarch Duan. Duan Yi was stunned and said in astonishment, I didn't slap. A slap was slapped on her face. Duan Yi screamed and fell to the ground with blood spurting out. She couldn't say the second half of the sentence. We are discussing important matters with the head of the Duan family. How can you speak? The old man sitting on the other side said indifferently and withdrew his palm. He turned his head and stared at Duan Rong with a pair of turbid old eyes. After a moment of silence, he suddenly smiled and said, I think the head of the Duan family is a reasonable person and won't let us down. Duan Rong took a deep breath and said in a cold tone, heads of the Duan family, you can follow me to the ancestral shrine. But if the people you bring also want to go in, don't blame me for disregarding the friendship between us and breaking off the pretense of cordiality with you. Seeing that Duan Rong relented, the atmosphere suddenly relaxed. The young practitioner laughed and said, don't worry, head of the Duan family. We, the heads of the Duan family, have been promoted by our strength. No one will hold us back. What the head of the Ying family said is reasonable. Head of the Duan family, don't worry. Duan Rong looked at the group of bandits in front of him with a smile, and his heart was burning with anger. But for the survival of the Duan family, he restrained himself and continued to warn, if the exploration of the dry well is still fruitless, please don't disturb the peace of the Duan family in the future. Although there are many mysterious legends in the ghost region, if the Duan family really has treasures, why do we have to be so miserable? That's all I have to say. You, take care. After saying this, Duan Rong snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves and left. He didn't look at Duan Yi from beginning to end. It was not the first time that Duan Yi made a big mistake. Every time, he was soft-hearted and forgave his sister. But this time, Duan Yi almost ruined his family. He was forced to compromise under many circumstances, and even was forced to let others enter the ancestral shrine. He didn't want such a sister. Duan Yi, get out of Nanli City tomorrow, or don't blame me for being ruthless. After saying this, Duan Rong left the hall with the heads of the Duan family, leaving Duan Yi kneeling there in a daze. She didn't even wipe the blood on the corner of her mouth. At the same time, the dignified woman praying in the ancestral shrine also sensed something. She stood up from the futon with a slightly changed expression. It was her husband's breath, and 12 breaths of Yuanying realm. 12 people. Did all the famous masters in Nanli City come here? The dignified woman's face immediately darkened. Even if she was at the late stage of Yuanying realm, she had no chance of winning in the face of 12 masters at the same level. Moreover, 3 of them had cultivations that were not much weaker than hers. She used to frighten them with the means of the ghost clan and made them mistakenly believe that there was an ancestor in the Duan family. But if she put it on the table, she would have no chance of winning. Dr. Su, I'm afraid that I have to break my promise. The dignified woman felt bitter in her heart. She looked up and saw Duan Rong walking into the ancestral shrine with a group of heads with a gloomy face. Seeing the dignified woman, the heads of the Duan family were also stunned. My wife is praying for my daughter. Sorry to make you laugh. Duan Rong explained expressionlessly. Everyone immediately breathed a sigh of relief and praised Madame Duan. But their minds had completely flown to the dry well, and their eyes were full of eagerness. Duan Rong snorted and pointed to the dry well. You have been here 300 years ago. I don't need to go into the well myself, do I? Head of the Duan family is a man of great righteousness. You don't have to bother with such a trivial matter. The old man who slapped Duan Yi laughed. He was also bold. He jumped down and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, the others jumped into the well one after another without waiting for Duan Rong's order. The dignified woman bit her lips and couldn't help but worry about Su Li. She took a step forward subconsciously, but her figure was suddenly blocked by her husband. Madam, you have done enough. Duan Rong turned around. His eyes were as clear as water, reflecting the deep helplessness. Do-er has heard it. Even if you keep your promise, it is useless. The dignified woman's heart trembled. I know. Duan Rong sighed softly and grasped the dignified woman's hand. How can I marry a wife like you? After this, no matter what the consequences are, as long as we are still alive, I don't want to be the head of the Duan family anymore. You and I will find a paradise with Do-er and live a good life, no matter you are a human, or a ghost clan. The dignified woman trembled slightly, and her eyes were filled with tears. But when she saw her husband's face full of helplessness after being deceived, she couldn't help but smile. You know, but you didn't tell me. I have been living in fear all these years. Alas, if Dr. Su doesn't come back, I will set up a monument for her. I feel guilty. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.